Mm, Muy buenos días a todos ustedes, incluyendo a mi mujer. Feliz lunes. Bienvenidos a otro episodio del Casino del Tío Salo. Como siempre, vamos a estar Alex Farhan y yo platicándoles de tablas. Discúlpenme que ando un poco callado. Mi mujer apenas se va a tener el deleite de despertar con mi voz esta mañana. Nuestro cuarto está aquí. Estuvo muy mal pensado haber puesto esto como la oficina, lo hubiéramos hecho abajo. Pero yo no estoy aquí para decirle cómo manejar esto a mi mujer. Ella es la que manda, así que me voy a quedar manitas arriba sin meterme en problemas con nadie. Antes de empezar el casino, siempre me gusta platicar con ustedes de algo, y eso es simplemente qué nos está diciendo mentiras. Porque todo el mercado se está yendo a altos históricos. Ahora, ¿estoy peleado con ello? Absolutamente no. Felicidades a todo el mundo que esté dentro, que se haya metido, etcétera. Personalmente no quiero estar en medio de esto por ahorita, pero es una preferencia personal. Obviamente, si tú estás metido en esto, te está yendo muy bien, etcétera. Bien, yo simplemente no quiero estar encima de mis tablas todo el día. Ahora sí que tengo demasiado que hacer con esto. Con esto por acá. Pero bueno, lo que estamos viendo es que el SP500 está en máximos históricos. Déjenme asegurarme de esto. Voy a ver mis tablas. Sí, el SP500 lo está. También el Dow Jones. El Nasdaq está empezando a pompear, buscando esos máximos históricos por ahí de los 20,674. El Russell 2000 está por ahí intentando no romper altos históricos, pero intentando romper los locales, que está por ahí del 2300. Entonces empezamos a ver todo esto empujar a la alza. Pero del otro lado, y esto es, ¿saben qué? Quiero compartir mi pantalla con ustedes, ¿por qué no? Rápidamente, aquí lo tienen, para que lo puedan ver. Estamos viendo, y déjenme quito mis indicadores estúpidos, para que lo puedan ver, SP500 tope, Nasdaq está aquí peleándose con esta zona que es el 19,920, que estoy seguro lo va a pasar pronto. Y aquí nos estamos peleando en un nuevo alto histórico para intentar romper aún más arriba en el Dow Jones. Entonces, tienes todo esto que está yendo muy bien. Te volteas a ver Nvidia y dices, no está como, no está regresando, ¿qué es lo que está pasando? Google también. Entonces, todos estos tienen, y mucha gente diría, bueno, pues todos estos activos han de tener bastante camino para arriba, ¿no? Eso ha de ser bastante bueno. Cuando volteo a ver una vez más, peso dólar, ahí vamos justamente a los niveles que venimos a retestear por acá y vamos para arriba. Cuando volteamos a ver todo esto, dices, bien, pues todo va para arriba, ¿no? Pero también volteas a ver los bonos y pueden ver que en los bonos tienes un repunte. Y los bonos, el rendimiento de los bonos ha estado repuntando al mismo tiempo que el mercado. Y acá es importante para todos ustedes entender esto, menos los de 2 años y un año, sobre todo el de 2 años está desplomándose, el de un año está todavía aguantando, pero el 2 años ya está desinvertido por bastante. En contra del 10 años está en 3,6, si lo quieres ver así, el uno está casi en 3,8 y el 30 años está en 4,1. Entonces, por aquí hay algo que nos está diciendo mentiras. Hay uno de estos jugadores, ya sea la renta fija o la renta variable, nos está engañando a corto o mediano plazo. ¿Y qué es lo que sabemos? Lo que sabemos es que la Reserva Federal, mis estimados, está bajando tipos. Entonces, si sabemos que la Reserva Federal está bajando tipos, yo diría que lo que nos está engañando en este momento es el rendimiento de los bonos. Y eso va a ser seguido eventualmente por el mercado. Puede que sea después de las elecciones, puede que sea antes, no tengo idea, y es por eso que en estos niveles saludables donde el tío Salo encontró buenas ganancias, dijo gracias por todo, nos vemos en la próxima. Entonces empezamos a notar este tipo de relaciones y preguntarnos por qué se está dando esa boca de coco, por qué se están siguiendo uno al otro cuando se supone que deberían ir al contrario. Normalmente cuando el mercado sube, el rendimiento de los bonos baja. ¿Y por qué? Porque cuando el rendimiento de los bonos está bajo, tienes más dinero que se mete al mercado tal cual. Y eso ayuda muchísimo a los índices, a todo lo que es riesgo subir. Pero cuando los bonos están subiendo, eso quiere decir nadie los está comprando, entonces no debería de haber tanta liquidez entrando ¿cómo se llama? A la renta variable en este momento. Pero yo creo que lo que estamos viendo en todos lados es simplemente no hay ninguna consistencia en todo lo que estamos viendo. Todo es muy irregular, todo es diferente. Entonces, esto va a jugar a cierto punto y tenemos que ver cómo va a jugar. La realidad de los tipos bajos y que sigan bajando tipos es algo que me pone enfrente y sobre todo con el oro, volteando a ver al oro, es algo que a mí personalmente me preocupa y creo que es lo que vamos a ver. Personalmente, esto es algo que no pensé que fuéramos a ver. Este es el oro. ¿Lo ves en la, vamos a ponerlo en la semanal, o qué les parece la mensual, que es brutal? Vean la mensual. Todo, por cierto, esto empieza el 2020, toda esta zona duró 3 años, es 2020 hasta dónde, hasta el 2023, para que tengan una idea. Y esta subidonga nada más le tomó un año al oro. Y aquí es donde tenemos que preguntarnos, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué? Y lo que personalmente creo al ver esta bajada de tipos, porque mucha gente está diciendo, no van a volver a bajar tipos a cero, tal vez nos vamos a un modelo como el de Japón, donde bajemos todo a cero para que el gobierno pueda financiarse a gusto. Eso explicaría la expansión monetaria, eso explicaría la inflación, eso explicaría por qué la devaluación del dólar, la devaluación de todas las monedas fiat, y eso explicaría por qué el oro en contra de ellas, porque recuerda, el oro se queda estable, ¿no? Básicamente lo que no estamos viendo y lo que el oro mide es cuánto valor pierde todo lo demás. El oro no está subiendo técnicamente y digamos literalmente, pero en contra de todo lo demás, ahí es donde si pudieras tener una tabla que te diga cuánto se está depreciando todo, sería invertida la del oro. Verías algo así, más o menos. Esto sería las monedas fiat aguantando y estos son las monedas fiat ahorita diciéndote aquí hay una fiesta que está esperando a todo el mundo y todavía nadie se ha dado cuenta de que viene. Porque esto se vería muy bajista, ¿no? Si estás viendo esta tabla así, dirías, güey, todo esto se está yendo al culo. Y es lo que está pasando efectivamente con nuestro dinero. Y eso es algo yo creo que debemos de mantener todos muy en mente con todo lo que estamos viviendo y simplemente si son primera vez inversores y están apenas aprendiendo, darse cuenta de que este es un punto donde no va a ser tan fácil. Y sé que no ha sido fácil en los últimos años, a menos de que seas trader, pero esto es donde se empieza a poner todo con subidas extremas, bajadas extremas, porque todo fin de ciclo requiere volatilidad extrema. Es como funciona, es lo que pasa. Entonces, es lo que estamos viviendo en este momento. Oros en altos históricos, $2,630 por onza. Nada mal. Es verdaderamente brutal ver esto. Y cuando, y mucha gente está diciendo también, ¿no? Incluyendo yo, vean al petróleo, el petróleo está a punto de caer, etcétera. Parece que está aguantando por acá, no tenemos una confirmación mensual, que sería por acá de los $64, pero tenemos ahora un mercado muy manipulado porque Estados Unidos se convirtió en el productor más grande de todo el mundo por mucho. Ahora que le chingamos la chamba a Rusia de todo el gas natural, etcétera, y también somos los productores más grandes de gas natural en todo el mundo. Entonces, este precio está completamente controlado por nosotros. No creo que sea muy relevante voltear a ver al petróleo porque está aguantando en la zona de nadie, que es donde le gusta estar por estos momentos, y ahí probablemente se va a quedar por un rato. Pero bueno, sin más ni más, quiero ver si Farhan, si Alex andan por acá. Veo a Alex, pero Farhan probablemente está en el baño. Ahorita les damos. Alex, I see you, but I don't know where Farhan is. So as soon as he gets in here, I'll bring you guys in. I'm running out of filler to to chat about with everyone. Del otro lado, ¿qué más estamos viendo? Vamos a ver rapidísimo antes de entrar. El dólar. El dólar, esto es algo interesante, porque si volteamos a ver el dólar, en realidad está en una tendencia bajista y todo el mundo cree que se va a ir a buscar los 94, la parte baja del canal. Y podría ser que se dé el caso, pero aquí les voy a decir algo. El dólar normalmente en tiempo de crisis, cuando todo se va al culo, el dólar sube, porque todo el mundo se viene a resguardar en el dólar. Y es muy, muy, muy importante entender esto, porque por más que queramos decir que vamos a destruir al dólar, sí, pero al principio, y esto es lo que hemos visto en este bull run de bonos, todo el mundo está metiendo su dinero en bonos del tesoro en dólares. ¿Por qué? Porque quieren afianzar básicamente un buen retorno con el más mínimo riesgo del mundo. Pero bueno, sin más ni más, les traigo estos cracks. Recuerden que todo esto lo hacemos en inglés y de ahí les traduzco yo a español para que sean pacientes. Le estoy contestando todas, vamos a poner uno por uno de ustedes que están comentando en el canal de YouTube a todos los miembros para no perder la costumbre, y vamos a contestar uno por uno de ustedes. Así que tráiganse buenas, ¿cómo se llama? Tráiganse buenas tablas, perros. Pídanos buenas tablas, por favor, y variadas. Ok, voy a traer a estos genios por acá. What's going on, guys? How are you?
You're muted.
Oh, you know, we're starting the week with traditions.
Fucking A. Good morning, fellas. You guys have a good weekend?
It wasn't too bad.
Can't complain. How about you?
Yeah, we were just chilling in the house mostly. A little bit of boring activities, but it was a weekend.
That
Chill.
sounds
We watched
pretty good.
Scarface.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I haven't watched that in
The
years.
eyes, Chico, they never lie.
Oh, I need to watch it again so I can get all the damn fucking quotes and everything. All righty, boys, you ready to start this?
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there any observations during the weekend that changed your mind on the markets? Did you see anything, spot anything interesting, etc.?
I mean, on Friday's close on Bitcoin, at least. I mean, it kind of flipped the. I've been pretty bear biased. I've been saying, cautiously bearish, but after Friday's close, there's too many things pointing to more upside on Bitcoin, than just a weekly downtrend that easily could get broken. Maybe, just certain things to me that made me kind of flip bullish. I'm pretty bullish now on Bitcoin. And I'm thinking, in the beginning of this week, if not in the middle of this week, any kind of pullback to 61.3 to 60,800 could be an opportunity, in my opinion.
And I know Farhan has always been bullish, basically. Even when he's bearish, he's bullish. He's bullish and being bearish. All righty, let's get this going. The first one, so that we can change things up, we don't have to do the same things, is Rivian. So whoever wants to do Rivian, and then there's Amazon for you guys.
All right, perfect. I'll do Rivian.
Yeah, and I'll get Mr. Bezos.
Sounds good. Well, Mr. Bezos also owns Rivian, a big part of it, by the way.
We can't escape him.
Don't forget that. Yeah, it's impossible. Hang on a second. Let me tell everyone what it is. There we go. Rivian. Let us go. I'm going to get into my chart.
All right. So here's Rivian. Just to give us a quick update. So we've been kind of in this channel here, for a few days now. It's just been ranging in this channel. We were talking about if it's valid, we should see a breakout or a breakdown soon. We got the breakdown, and our bias for this breakdown was, Rivian wasn't looking the most bullish to me. We had essentially the 9 going under the 21. This was something that I was mentioning, and essentially while you're getting this in a consolidation range, also while breaking, back under the EMA 9 on the weekly, for me, my bias was always like, this should come down and we should see it actually break down fairly soon. And that's kind of what we got now. And so, Rivian's kind of in the middle now, at least my chart. So what I would like to see on Rivian in this week potentially could be just a bounce. A bounce would make sense to me. Either, in my opinion, we're either going to retest $12 and call it $12.30. We have to remember this $12.30 is a pretty big spot for Rivian. For the data we have, this spot kind of, once it gets reclaimed, Rivian gets good momentum to go back up. And so losing that also hasn't been the best. And so, very much like when we broke down here, the difference was we went straight to this $10 support zone. And we very well could. This is when Rivian was at BBWP was at extremes on Rivian when we were talking about this. This was a point of concern for me because, you have this consolidation matter in this range here. You also have BBWP hitting extremes while we're also forming, we're also bearish in the sense that the 9 easily flipped over the 21. We also, I'm almost certain, had, right here, a silver cross to the downside. Let's not forget, we backtracked this, and there's not many silver crosses. I could find, 3, but each and every time we've had a silver cross on the daily, on Rivian, it's always led to, big moves down, at least 30% each and every time. And that's kind of was my bias on why I was pretty convinced Rivian should break down. I mean, it doesn't always have to be like that, but too many things to me were telling me that it's bearish. We had a gap here that never really got filled. You could argue it's filled now. That silver cross to the downside happened here. So when we got back to this point and we started rejecting the 9 pretty heavily, that was kind of game on. But also, I mean, minus the silver cross, what we know on the daily is, the 200 SMA on the daily was a big rejection point here. When we rallied straight up to this, we still couldn't reclaim it. On top of that, if you like looking at the EMA 100, we also were nicely below. It's never a good sign when you reclaim it right here. Remember, it's the green line. I'll take the 34 off so it'll be more evident. When we reclaimed the EMA 100, you always have to then look at the 200, right? And so when we saw the 200, it's nice that we're above the 100. Can we get back above the 200? And so what we saw here was a rejection to deviation of this EMA 100. It's never a good sign when you reclaim the EMA 100 and then deviate it. You form this doji here. You reject the channel, and then you actually come down, and then you stayed down the whole time. It wasn't until you got this last kind of like liquidity grab to the EMA 100, rejected down, reclaimed lost the 9, and then after that, it was the dump. And so for me now, I mean, Rivian bulls either need to step up here, they need to start deviating back up. Ideally, reclaiming $12.30 would be a good, at least a good start. I'm only saying that because of what happened here. Slight breakdown, reclaimed it, back tested into support, was able to actually reclaim the 9 and the 21. And then from there, we just kind of chopped up. Why I'm not convinced that that's going to happen, though, is simply there's just too many things on the chart, especially with, the silver cross on the daily. Now the daily EMA 9 is now heavily pointed down. So even if Rivian gets a rally all the way back up here, this $13 is the second rejection point, assuming we don't reject $12.30. Why am I saying that? Well, usually when you're holding these channels for as long as we did, it would make sense because, people kind of just went into shorts here. So it would make sense. Rally up, either reject here. This is the bearish retest to come down. Something we saw right here, rallied up based on this support, came back up, actually retested it, and then rejected. Or if it wants to have a bigger bounce, it could come up, maybe reject this channel. And this is something I talked about on last stream. And then, solidify this range at the bottom of the range into resistance, while also potentially rejecting this daily 9. Those are two scenarios I'm watching for now. I wouldn't personally be shorting this, and I wouldn't be longing this. I'd be waiting. This $12.30 could be a good point to start analyzing it. If Rivian starts, reclaiming the daily 21, for me, that'd be a welcoming sign, especially after it got lost. And then we can be honestly pretty bullish on this again if we actually start reclaiming this daily SMA 200. And the reason I say that is it's really easy. This would be an SFP to the upside, assuming we reclaim it like this. Cool. But then, we want this to actually go into support. And then getting back above this zone here and consolidating would do what? Well, it put us back above the breakout zone. You would then have reclaimed this EMA 100 on the daily SMA 200, and get back above the, you'd basically buy up, get back above into this channel, and then start reclaiming this here. If you start extending this more down, even though, it's basically broken down, whenever you break down and then quickly get reclaimed and then you come back up, to me, that would be pretty bullish, and we'd have to start looking for $15. But, other than that, that's like the only hope you might have on the daily for bulls. They essentially just want to reclaim that daily SMA 200. A big rejection point here, getting back and reclaiming it while also reclaiming the mean line, which we know this, $13.86 mean line. It's a pretty big point here as well. We reclaim this $12.30. We get it right up to that $12.86, consolidating it above. Usually leads to breakouts. Even here, consolidated a little bit, broke out. And so that's kind of what I'm watching for Rivian. The issue is, and why I'm not also convinced that we could get a more aggressive bounce back to this $13 zone. And honestly, I'd be really just looking for this $12.70 to $12.30 to reject. And it's because BBWP is essentially expanding. This was at 7% when we were talking about it. Now it's expanded to 44%. It could hit the 50% and then start rolling over a little bit, resetting, kind of like what we saw here. It went up, went to 50%, started resetting again. But we know, Rivian can hit extremes very easily if it wants to. And as of now, right, the momentum's with bulls, the trend is down. And then when we look at the weekly here, the weekly is easier to see. We have this fresh cross of the 9 and the 21. That's not a good sign because this is fresh and this just happened. On top of that, with that daily silver cross to the downside. So now we know the weekly's bearish, but not even based on this cross. It's not. We've been steadily under the weekly 9, for 1, 2, 3 weeks now, and now we're farther from it. I'm liking this 9 also lining up with the bottom of this channel. So it just gives me more confluence that if we do get big squeezes back up to $13, $12.80, I'm going to be looking at that as another short zone. Because when you get these crosses here, this gives you kind of a hint that there is bearish momentum. And we know that. I mean, now the breakdown is there. But as a trader, you have to see things before they happen. And that's kind of, I wouldn't be shorting down here. If you got an easy trigger, if it started rejecting this $12.30, where you're wrong, because even on a lower time frame, even call it an hourly, if we start reclaiming this $12.30, what would that be? It'd be an hourly reclaim of the 9. But you see when we break down here, and for many hours, we just start slowly bleeding down. You're not actually testing this 9. So any rallies into this zone here should be the first rejection zone, in my opinion. If we get a bigger bounce, then I'm looking at this area here to be the next rejection zone. I'm wrong on this, and Rivian will be bullish if, let's say, we start reclaiming $13.70, simply because of what I mentioned on the daily. We also know that the hourly after Friday's closure, hit extremes. So it makes sense to, chop, consolidate, maybe get a little bounce. And then from there, is that a bearish retest? Bears are in full control, and that is something everyone should be aware about. Curious so how BBWP is on the weekly, and it's quite healthy. We see the curve up, it is expanding. We know that this move is happening, momentum wise. So it is something to be more cautious about, because as it stands, this looks like a lower high to me that was made here. And the weekly still looks just like in a steady downtrend. So if that's the case, we would expect this $10 not to hold and essentially break this last low. If we do that, next spot for me is $8, but $8.21. But like I said on Friday, I would really be watching this $10 zone. This $10 zone should be a bounce zone, assuming we get there. And there's not much data with Rivian to the downside. So, I mean, if bears want, they could easily break this low, and then we're in no man's land again. So it's something to be really cautious about, because this chart and what we know with daily silver crosses, how they break down 30% moves, we could honestly easily go back down there from the daily silver cross. If we did the average, and we'll call it 29% from the silver cross here on the daily, from this high, essentially a 30% move would take us right around this, $10 range, which is exactly the next level I'm looking for. So that's good confluence. I'd just be really mindful of that. Lastly, if we look at the monthly, which is incoming in about 7 days, it's not looking good. This monthly here has good momentum to come down, especially after this deviation. And I also think that the downtrend becomes more evident on this monthly, consistent lower highs. And so to the book, you would expect these lows here at least to get run. If not, they break, solidifying the lower low. Because all we have is a monthly downtrend. And when it's in a monthly downtrend, it's exasperated more, and it just tells you that bears are in control. And another point here, if we do start reclaiming back above, that $13.80, $14, that could potentially pop us back above the monthly 9. Great sign if we get back above the 9. But as long as the monthly is under the EMA 9, there's no point for you to be bullish on this. We see that this monthly 9's been a big point of rejection, and it's kind of been playing out like how it's always been. Monthly rallies up, reclaims the 9, and then in this closure loses it, chops, and then dumps. rallies up, reclaims the 9, and then loses it. Rallies up, reclaims the 9, and then loses it. So overall, this chart has been pretty straightforward in the sense that, the way it's basically acting around this monthly 9 has been pretty much the same through and through. And so, with the trend down, with the silver cross on the daily to the downside, with the weekly 9 flipping under the 21, you really have to be more cautious on here, especially if you are kind of, a bull or even a long-term investor, in my opinion. And the quarterly, this kind of says it all. If you're bullish on this, remember this quarterly is closing in 7 days.
7 days.
Yeah. I mean, what we have here, I know this, let me just move this, but like what we have here is a pretty nasty candle on a quarterly. I don't think, Rivian's had as nasty of a candle.
Since the top.
Yeah, exactly. Since here. That's a great point. Exactly. I remember you mentioning that. When you get these like almost shooting star patterns on a quarterly, that usually shooting star patterns are like a reversal in trend. And as it stands, Rivian on the quarterly hasn't really gained any kind of bullish trend. And so the fact that we're potentially getting a topping candle down here is, something to really analyze for, maybe into the next quarter. Because best case, if this closes like this, is on the next quarter, bulls would essentially just want this to slowly come back up, maybe reclaim this $12.30, assuming it gets lost on this quarterly. But, other than that, I'd really just be cautious. It perfectly hit our resistant line, came down, rejected, leaving a really big wick body, basically giving bears full control. And so if they want to take it home, they can easily take it back to $8.20. And that would basically fill this gap, not gap, but wick. It'd start filling this wick here. Because when we came down to this $8.20 on the quarterly, it was basically a tap and go. And so when I see a candle like this, it definitely gives me more momentum that $10 probably seems next up, probably within the next few weeks. And then assuming that doesn't hold, we have to start looking at the, last low of, April 1st quarter, when it made that low at basically $8.26, right around that zone would be the next spot.
I guess the question in Rivian is, when the fuck is it going to stop making lower lows?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just on the downtrend is pretty valid on all time frames. So I'd be very cautious of that. If you're a long-term investor, there's really I'm not seeing too many things on this chart that make me want to be a long-term investor. But like I said, if the daily starts turning up and it starts reclaiming that estimate 200, it probably then gives us fuel to test this gap here, this high. And then from there, we have to just see what the reaction is. But I'm pretty bearish on this chart. We were talking about this breaking down. And if BBWP started to expand at the extreme lows, that'd be very bad news for bulls. And that's kind of what we got on Friday, or it is exactly what we got on Friday. So now what you guys need to be watching for is this the bearish retest? Are we going to go up to here, a shallow bounce at $12.30 and start rejecting? Or, do bears want to trap more bulls, break above this $12.30, get people to long it, only for it to come up here, tap the 9, EMA 9 on the daily, maybe wick to this channel, solidify its resistance. And then, from there, you get the liquidity of the longs, and that exasperates us down more. So I'd be on bearish retest watch. I'd be very cautious about this chart. And again, if the daily starts reclaiming that estimate 200, that means the weekly is above the 9. Maybe the monthly can reclaim the 9. Okay, now you have more of a, kind of a thesis on why we could go up. But as it stands, with all these different things corresponding to more downside, you really have to be more, at least cautious in the sense that you probably shouldn't be buying, every single dip down on Rivian and trying to catch the long and trying to be a hero. You probably should just wait for the easy trade. And to me, daily estimate 200 reclaim and hold, right? Not just rallies up, reclaims it, and then deviates. Like 2 to 3 closures on the daily would be a good sign for bulls.
Yeah, completely agree. And also temporality wise, it seems like during the summer, it finds its footing, it goes up and then it goes down and then it goes up. And then by the end of January, February, it makes a brand new low and then it goes up again and then it catches people. Like it's been doing kind of like the same thing over and over and over again since it came out. So just interesting. Now for you, YUMC, and let me just translate this and we'll get to you, Farhan. Vale, pues estamos viendo Rivian, damas y caballeros. Yo creo que vamos a empezar con la trimestral. Vamos a empezar de arriba para abajo, para hacerlo sencillo para todos. Y pueden ver, básicamente, este fue una gran vela de tope y fue justamente lo que hizo, $179. No puedo creer que Rivian estaba cotizando en $179. Qué locura. Pero cuando nos acercamos más a nuestro precio de ahora, podemos darnos cuenta que estamos formando una vela de tope justamente aquí. Una vela trimestral que cierra literalmente en 7 días y 6 semanas. Y 6... 7 días y 6 horas. Sí. Si cerramos tal cual, no se va a ver nada bien. Tal vez lo que queramos es que esta espadita se vuelva demasiado delgada y que pueda retomar por acá el nivel de los 13.30. Algo que quiero poner, y no sé si lo pueda popular por acá, es esto. El promedio de las 9 está hasta los 23.61 en la trimestral y podemos ver que estamos muy abajo de ella. Nunca hemos estado arriba desde que empezó a popular acá en octubre 23 y eso es bastante negativo para el precio pues ahora sí que a largo plazo. Vamos a ver cómo cierra esta vela. En la mensual estamos viendo un poco de lo mismo. Estamos peleando con esta resistencia y podemos ver que tenemos nuestro promedio de las 9 literalmente siendo rechazado acá, donde el 9 está bajo el 21, lo que nos enseña debilidad en la mensual y nunca ha estado por encima. Así que esto es una gran señal para todos nosotros los que somos alcistas en Rivian a largo plazo, que cuando el 9 y el 21 mensual se flipen, esto va a ser literalmente la explosión a la alza, pero todavía falta demasiado cuando, una vez más, el promedio de las 21 está en los 20.73, como pueden ver acá. Cuando nos acercamos un poco más a la semanal, para que lo puedan ver por acá, en la semanal también podemos darnos cuenta que aquí es donde empiezan los problemas. Tienes al 9 bajándose del 21, puedes ver la debilidad. Intentamos romper justamente esta zona con estos promedios, no pudimos, tuvimos un rechazo y nos fuimos para abajo. Yo lo tengo marcado en los 12, pero a Alex le gusta esta zona de los 12.70, entre 12.30 y 12, entre 12.30 y 12.70. Entonces, el primer paso sería ver si podemos romper los 12.81 a la alza. Pero honestamente lo que nos va a importar es poder romper este alto de acá, porque si no, pues simplemente sigues en la misma tendencia bajista en la que hemos seguido creando bajos más bajos y digo bajos más bajos, altos más bajos, aunque en este momento estamos creando bajos más altos. Si Rivian se llegara a quedar aquí y consolidara por un rato en lo que los promedios bajan, eso le daría bastante buena imagen a esto, de que una buena idea de que nos vamos a ir para arriba. Por ahora, esto se ve bastante bajista en la semanal también. Y cuando nos vamos a la diaria, pueden ver todos los promedios y su mamá están aquí arriba en los 13.60, 13.55, que es donde existe toda esa confluencia. Por lo que probablemente a cierto punto vamos a venir a regresar acá. Pero primero, ¿podemos seguir cayendo? Por supuesto que sí. Ya cerraste el gap de los 12 que existía acá en la diaria. Cerraste este gap, entonces ya no queda nada ahí. Y ahora, en lo que se trata, si eres alcista, quieres que esto forme un nuevo suelo y ahí empezar a retomar promedios. Pero por ahorita no nos está diciendo nada de que tiene ganas de hacer eso. Y la otra, cada que tienes un cruce plateado a la baja, ¿qué es lo que haces? Le apuestas en contra con el 9 y hay muchas más ocasiones donde le vas a acertar y vas a ganar en un corto apostando en contra del 9 que el precio retomándolo y haciéndote una desviación momentánea. Así que ahí lo tienen. Rivian se ve ahora sí que bajista, pero la esperanza de todos los alcistas es que podamos aguantar acá y crear un nuevo mínimo, porque ahora sí que si creas este y sigues en tendencia alcista. Lo único que tendríamos que hacer es mover esto para acá, ¿no? Pero eso es la realidad. Probablemente no. Probablemente esto sea más importante porque puedes ver el rechazo y cómo se ha peleado con todos estos niveles y luego la caída. Vamos a ver, porque aparte también rápido por temporalidad, en temporalidad, todo lo que es, ponte tú, abril es donde encuentra mínimos, pueden verlo acá también, es donde encontró mínimos, eso es abril. Y normalmente estos pompazos que damos por ahí de julio, los hemos visto repetidos. Y luego después de septiembre tenemos la caída octubre, noviembre y una más subida en diciembre. Eso es más o menos lo que hemos estado viendo con Rivian una y otra vez. Vamos a ver si sigue la misma tendencia a la baja o si no, pero por ahora estamos bajistas hasta que no nos pruebe que esto podría ser el nuevo piso. Y de acuerdo a lo que estamos viendo en patrón de velas que estamos viendo, caída, consolidación de precio, caída, consolidación de precio, esto es un bear flag, esto es una bandera bajista. Entonces todavía no hay nada acá que te diga que se va a detener el precio de bajar más, por lo que los $10 siguen estando en pie. Y ahora podemos caer hasta por acá y simplemente no romper los 10.34 y bien, estás creando un bajo más alto. Pero de aquí a acá es bastante la diferencia, es casi 20 y tantos %. Así que atentos por acá con Rivian. Vale, pues, Amazon. We're ready whenever you are, señor.
All right, gotta remember to unmute myself first.
Yeah, I saw that you did. I was gonna get ready to unmute you.
All right, we're gonna start with Amazon on the monthly. So we see right here, just as we had on Bitcoin on Friday, we had what I like to call the bing and bong play. Whenever you bounce off the bottom 38.2%, you get two automatic targets from there. Your first one is the median, and the second one is your top 38.2%. So right now we're getting a strong bounce off the bottom 38.2% and the 9 EMA. So our first targets from here, as long as we have a close like this, it's going to be the median at $203.30 and the top 38.2% at $237.67. And this is statistically likely based off of these HPDR numbers. You have to subtract 100 for them. So that gives you a 61.8% chance of hitting this level right over here. And you have an even stronger chance of hitting this median level over here. So as long as our monthly is still like this, we're overwhelmingly likely going to hit this level and then this level over here, which is why they're called the bing and bong play, because you bing from here, then you bong up there.
Oh.
We're coming down on our HPDR momentum. We're entering towards the negative territory, which we did on this candle right here, while our volatility is flipping up. So that is technically a bearish setup. And if you look at the jewel is flipping into a dark blue sell signal. So that's also another bearish setup. The only thing that will invalidate this is if we get a close above this area right here, which is around $203.30. We get a close over, on the monthly. We get a close over there. That's going to invalidate that bearish setup, and we're overwhelmingly likely going to hit this 237.67 to maybe 248.38. Until then, we have to watch for the monthly setup. As long as we're rejecting this area, though, if we tap this area and reject it, then this becomes not as likely, and this becomes more likely to come back down towards this area. So we have to watch to see what the reaction is at this median area right now. Let's check to the weekly. The weekly right now has closed over the blue 38.2% zone on our last closure, and we closed over the 50% zone as well. So what we should be expecting is possibly a move down. If we get a move down towards this 50%, possibly this 5 EMA and this 38.2% to bounce off of it, base off of it, and then we would expect our continuation from there. And what gives me that bias is if you look at our HPDR momentum, we are breaking freshly into the bullish control zone, while our volatility is starting to flip up into positive territory above the 55 as well. So volatility is strongly up, while momentum is into the bullish control zone. And then we look at the jewel. The jewel on the weekly is flipping up from the white neutral signal to this cyan light blue buy signal. It's about to approach this pink. Once it crosses above the pink, then we have the signal that we need to hit that level on the monthly that we were looking at before, that 237.67. We have to wait for that signal to show up on the monthly for the jewel to cross above the pink on the weekly. Until then, what our target should be after closing above the 50% is somewhere between the 61.8 and the 78.6. Which is right now at $195 to $207.91. And our Joule supports that, momentum supports that, and the volatility supports it. Let's go to the 5-day. 5-day is giving us the same thing where we closed above the blue 38.2% zone. All of our moving averages like bunched up together and it started expanding apart. So we could expect after this, after basing off the 61.8%, since we failed to break below it, I wouldn't think that we're going to hit the 50%. I would say the next target would be the 78.6, which right now is at $201.80. If we can close above this area, this would be a close above these previous highs. And then from there, I would say that we're probably going to hit the 88.3, which right now is at $217.97. Let's check the RSI. All right, so we're going to start with a quarterly chart on the RSI. That's the biggest one we have. We had this one drive of hidden bullish divergence that was confirmed over here on this drive in October of 2022 on this low here. It still hasn't been invalidated yet. We still don't have a local top. To get a local top here, we would have to close below $180.39 on the quarterly, which we have not gotten any one of these closes below the previous candles open. So we still don't have the local top. So this divergence is still active. Right now, our next logical target will be the bullish control zone, and that one sits at $218.17. So that would align with our, yeah.
Okay.
And that,
yeah,
and that
aligns with your 5-day.
Yeah. And then if you look at our Joule VNP over here, we're getting the same thing on the quarterly, where we're getting this light blue cyan bicycle, and we're getting volatility expansion to support it too. Check the monthly. And the quarterly tested right down exactly to the 9 EMA. Like if you were to check on this this whole rally from the beginning right here in 2014, from $13 all the way up to $188, where did it like to hold the entire time? Well, it was on an uptrend, the 9 EMA. 9 EMA held every single time. When we lost 9 EMA, we were in for some long form consolidation. Right now, we tested exactly down to the 9 EMA, and we got a very strong bounce off of it. So we're getting the same relationship between the 9 EMA and price action as we've been getting since 2014 until the top. The monthly has nothing. Monthly has that same sell signal currently on the Joule. Weekly has a little bit of inverse head and shoulders on the RSI right here. As you can see, right, there's a shoulder, there's the head, there's the neck shoulder. What we have to see is we have to see it close above this area right here on the RSI, which is 56.5 to be safe. And check and change the bullish control zone to 56.5. And it'll tell us what price it needs to be. Yeah, can I not put dots?
Apparently not.
No, I can't. So I guess let's just do 57.
I was going to say, yeah. It's going to be impossible.
We need to close above $202.16 to confirm this inverse head and shoulders, and that would give us a technical target of. I'm guessing it's going to be the bearish critical zone.
Yep.
I mean the bullish critical zone, and yeah, basically right along to the bullish critical zone.
Almost to the top. Yeah.
And that number is currently at $309.65. That's the beauty of this RSI, that it tells you all the numbers that you need to get.
Yeah.
Settings. There we go.
Like what needs to close where, so you can expect what.
Yeah, and it also tells you what price the price would have to be to get into like one of these bearish control zones or bullish control zones. And then the 5-day, do we have any divergences? We don't. The 3-day, we have some confirmed hidden bullish divergence right here. It was confirmed a few periods ago, so it's not as active as it was before, but there's still no local top, so it's still continuing to play out. Our next target is going to be the bullish control zone, and that number is right now sitting at $198.45. Plus, we're also above all of our major EMAs, and the 9 EMA has just crossed above the 21 EMA freshly again. So it does make sense that we can move up to that $198 area to enter the bullish control zone.
Mhm.
But from there, we would have to watch the reaction to see if we reject or if we continue to get some continuation. So our other higher time frame setups can play out. 2-day, nothing. All right, one last thing I want to look at, which is the momentum chart. All right, let's do our quarterly at first. So quarterly momentum is going to stay up as long as price is above $126.11. Not only that, but volatility is starting to flip up as well. So volatility is supporting this momentum move towards the upside, and it's telling us that price is more likely to go up than it is to find a top here and end up going down, because our volatility is expanding from lows, and it's already currently at 33%. We still have another 60% or so to go on volatility before volatility is topped out. And there's a good amount of room between current price and the price needed to flip quarterly momentum down. So more than likely, we're going to end up closing this quarterly on momentum pointed towards the upside. This number is going to go up after the next quarterly open. I don't know where it's going to go up to, but the hopium is that it goes up and the price is still above it. If the price is still above it, then the asset is still bullish, and we should still be expecting volatility expansion towards the upside. If the price goes above price action, then at that point, that's one of our biggest worrying signals. And we're going to have anybody who's like long bias is going to have to start de-risking.
So we'll know in 7 days, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now on the monthly, our monthly pivot is $172.78. This one is a lot more like in your face than the last one, because we're so much closer to price action. If we close above 192.78, monthly momentum stays towards the upside, and volatility will start to tick back up to support that move. If we close below this, momentum is going to turn to the downside, and this number is probably going to go up, and then volatility will start supporting that move to the downside, and that's not going to be pretty. At that point, our first easy target is going to be this 55 EMA, which is currently sitting at like just below $140. I don't want like maybe 136 to 138. That's not going to be a nice move on Amazon.
No, that's a mega low. Yeah.
And right now, our momentum indicator is not looking the best. It's pointed very vertically towards the downside. So we're going to need before the end of the month to see price come back up above 172, let's say 85, and close above there. Then this can start to flip back around. And then we're also going to maintain the bullish critical zone as well. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different things done with one monthly closure. Maintaining the bullish critical zone, flipping momentum back up towards the upside, turning volatility back up. It's going to be a whole bunch of different things in one monthly closure that we're going to have to look for. On the week,
no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure at all. On the weekly, our pivot is 177.04. So that gives us more bias that our monthly can close up. Not only is it 177.4, but we're rejecting the middle zone right here. We're back into the bullish control zone on the momentum, and we're rejecting getting into the middle zone. That does tell you that more of a bias that we're likely going to continue on towards the upside and continue the monthly and quarterly setups for the upside rather than the downside, because these low time frames bleed into the higher ones. The 5 day, same thing.
Sorry, that number on the close is the same as the EMA 9. So it's a little above the EMA 9 on the monthly. So there's a lot of confluence there. It's 176.58 right now. So
that's very,
interesting.
very close.
Yeah.
The 5 day also pointed towards the upside, rejecting the middle zone. 176 is the pivot. We're strongly above that. 3 day 172.24 is the pivot. Volatility is already flipping back up. Most time frames are actually looking in favor of continuation rather than making a top here. Right here on the 2 day, we have a fresh silver cross right here. The 21 just crossed above the 55. The 9 is above all of them, and we're getting continuation. Our pivot is 184.1. We're about $10 above that. Volatility is expanding. Everything points towards continuation from here. The daily, 189.06, while volatility is starting to struggle a little bit. After this close, if we do close above 190, this is probably going to start ticking back up and flipping towards the upper 90s. And then from there, we should be looking for some long-form consolidation and maybe a little bit of a pullback. But until then, we should be looking for more continuation towards the upside, in my opinion.
Very nice, sir. Very, very nice. Thank you. Apple for you.
For me?
After, yeah. You got yours, right, Alex? YUMC.
Yeah.
Perfect. Ok. Estamos viendo Amazon y lo vamos a poner en la mensual, primero en la trimestral. Hay varios puntos, pero lo voy a simplificar lo más posible. Básicamente, en corto tiempo, en cortas temporalidades, bueno, en la trimestral estamos por encima del 9, del 21, del 55, del 100, de todo lo que te imagines. Estás creando una vela que ya rompió altos históricos y estás aparte quiero que vean esto, o sea, llevamos encima de la 9 desde el 2007. Entonces, esto es algo que simplemente, siempre y cuando el precio esté por encima de la 9 trimestral, sabes perfectamente que esto es alcista. Lo puedes ver acá cuando cayó. Fue este pequeño mercado bajista que tuvimos que duró nada del 2021, bueno, del 2022 hasta el 2023, que más o menos empezó en realidad por ahí de abril del 2023, esta gran caída, digo, del 2022, esta gran caída. Y esto fue pues, lo que todos conocemos. Ahora, nos vamos a ir rápidamente a la mensual. En la mensual, aquí se me hace muy importante esto. En la mensual, tu promedio de las 9 está en los 176.61. Por todas las métricas en todas las diferentes temporalidades, el precio podría venir a corregir hasta ese punto y siempre y cuando no tengamos un cierre abajo de eso, todo se ve muy bien. Pero ahora, algo que se me olvidó en la trimestral es, la trimestral literalmente cierra en 7 días y 6 horas. Con que cierres donde estés en este momento, esto nos dice que, o en realidad arriba de los 100, donde estaba el promedio de las 9 en las otras, en la mensual, con que cierres arriba de eso, todos los promedios van a subir, probablemente nos indique que vaya a haber más consolidación y vaya a seguir subiendo. Siempre y cuando tengas un cierre arriba de los 201.02, que es el máximo histórico, vas a ir, tu siguiente objetivo son los 203, con un cierre acá, y ahora no estoy hablando de la trimestral, estoy hablando de temporalidades más bajas. Te vas a los 217 y tenemos un objetivo alto en los 236, 237. Cuando nos acercamos un poco más en la semanal, puedes darte cuenta que acabamos de cruzar el 9 por encima del 21 y esto nos da una señal de que hay fuerza en el precio. Y también puedes ver que la 9 y el 21 están en 183, 181, lo que también queda perfectamente con nuestra mensual por acá, por lo que podríamos esperar un poco de un movimiento de corrección a ese punto y volver a continuar con el movimiento. En la diaria estás viendo cómo en la diaria tienes un cruce plateado a la alza por acá que acaba de ocurrir. Eso te da bastante fuerza y también el promedio de la 9 está en los 187.27, que es por ahí donde está en la mensual. Así que esperar un movimiento correctivo y cada que tocamos la 9 después de un cruce plateado, después de que tenemos un cruce plateado, normalmente el precio viene a retestar la 9 y ese es donde te da la oportunidad de tener una buena compra. Y ya, básicamente lo vemos bastante alcista, sin más ni más. Todos los indicadores de momentum en la gran mayoría de temporalidades nos indican que Amazon es bastante alcista y simplemente con no perder esta zona crítica de los, ponte tú, 179, todo se ve bastante bien y en la diaria lo puedes ver, que es el promedio de la 100. Porque cuando cae del promedio de la 100 puedes ver este tipo de correcciones. Entonces, siempre y cuando aguantemos por acá de los 179 en total y tengamos cierres arriba de esto, se ve alcista. Entonces, tu primer objetivo va a ser por acá en los 196. De ahí nos vamos a ir a los 202, de ahí 203, 217 y de ahí podemos esperar 237, creo. Sí, 237. Pero tiene que moverse paso a paso y tienes que darte tiempo porque esto es en temporalidades altas. En cortas nos está diciendo que podríamos ir tantito de lado, que es perfectamente normal, sobre todo en algo que ha estado subiendo por tanto tiempo. Así que ahí lo tienen, Amazon, damas y caballeros. Nos vamos a Yumk, que no sé qué sea esto, pero Alex will tell us what the fuck this is. Yum Chinese Holding, great.
Something like that. So, I mean, overall, the chart's not looking the worst. So, like, after it basically came down here to this $30 zone, you know, we got the bounce after it made the low. You know, this has been in a steady downtrend for a while now, actually. And it's nice that we're kind of seeing that break especially on the daily. We're seeing trend break, especially here after we broke this last lower high that led to the lower low. We basically were in this consolidation manner. Usually in bullish, when you're in a bullish uptrend or forming it, bullish continuation usually happens when you form a bull flag like this. You have the flagpole, you're forming the flag, and then you're in the breakout. One thing on this daily too that is telling me that this is pretty bullish is the fact that we have actually silver crossed on the daily, and we know that it's not corrective. It's a valid silver cross to the upside because the 9's above it all. This is an example where we did silver cross. This is something that is not valid because the 9 wasn't above all the moving averages, the 55, the 21. And so this kind of led to just more corrective and chop. The last silver crosses we got, though, have led to pretty nice moves overall. This one basically took us all the way to $64 after it crossed in the 50s. And then here as well, we were in the 45s, and from the first major correction, we went all the way to 59. So we have a silver cross to the upside on the daily, which is nice. We are pressing resistance now, so we have to be aware of that. And currently we are at the daily SMA 200. When I'm looking at that, this basically got solidified in resistance right here. We broke down from it, rallied up, rejected it. And so now what I want to see is, especially if you're bullish on this, we should start reclaiming this daily SMA 200. It makes sense to maybe get a little pullback from here. But as it stands, this should get reclaimed, and then that should give us fuel to go up to $38.55. I don't think that will stop though, considering the daily of the silver cross. It's also getting supported by the 9. When you go to the 4-hour, it kind of shows it nicer where, we've reclaimed all the major moving averages, and now we kind of are just trekking up to this $38.50. So that's why I'm convinced if the daily can start reclaiming that SMA 200, this will be a shift in structure. We've now broken the downtrend on the daily, so that's a shift in itself, while also reclaiming a major moving average like the daily SMA 200. It reminds me of very much like this, where we, broke down from the EMA 100, SMA 200, came all the way down, started to slowly grind up, and it wasn't until we actually reclaimed that SMA 200 where YUMC basically got a sustained momentum rally up. So that's kind of what you'd want to be looking for in today's closure. When BBWP is hitting extremes, while also we're in this consolidation manner right here, while also breaking this last lower high on the daily, because remember, this is the last lower high, rallied up, made another lower high, and then this led to the lower low. It's already broken the downtrend, in my opinion. Now it's just more solidifying the bullish momentum by actually reclaiming this SMA 200. Now, it would make sense for me to probably reject on the first tap. Considering we haven't tapped it here since basically August of 2023, it's been front ran here, but we actually haven't tapped it since this last rejection. So ideally, what you'd want to see when you haven't tapped a major moving average like that in so long, make a lot of sense to come down, hit it, start rejecting slightly. That could end up just trapping bears, in my opinion, because even if we come all the way back down to $35, even if maybe the 9 doesn't hold, and we actually hit the 21. Why I like the 21 is because you're getting that nice confluence of the 21, almost matching the 9. The 100, which basically solidifies the bounce zone there. If we start, let's say, we start rejecting this, losing the 9, and we fall back under the EMA 100, I will think then that this wasn't sustained. The trend shifted on the daily, but it again just wasn't sustained. And if we start rolling back over, especially breaking this last basically low at $32.67, I'll just be looking at this as just more like a short squeeze, I guess. But as it stands, we are getting that shift. We are shifting structure. It's now in an uptrend, so we have to start being on higher low watch. My only point is just to be cautious around this level because we are pressing resistance. I think that's more, it's evident on the weekly as well. If the weekly can start closing back above the 34 here, this pink line, For me, then we have $38.42. You know, especially when we're almost getting this 9 crossing the 21. It's you know, it's hard to look at this being a big stopping point around $38. One thing I'm really liking about this weekly is it lining up nicely with this $43 zone. So let's say the weekly does reclaim the 34. Let's say the daily is now reclaiming the SMA 200. While the silver cross is happening, if we actually do get a weekly above this 34, what that'll do is actually make this 9 cross above the 21. If that happens, then I'll be convinced that we'll probably over time go up to this zone, this $43 zone. This is a massive zone, especially on the weekly, because the daily trend can shift. The 4-hour trend can shift, the 12-hour trend can shift, but you know, the daily still is has more precedent. And as it stands right now, in my opinion, to shift this, ideally what you'd want is to break this last high that was formed on February 26th of 2024. That's currently sitting right around $44.24. Break that. Then I think then the weekly shifts, and then we have to start looking at this $50 zone. You know, this though, I only have 3 lines here because this is going to be the range we're probably going to play into. I don't think we're just going to bounce and squeeze all the way up to 50s from here. It'd make a lot of sense to maybe close the 34 above the 34 weekly 34, and then you know, ideally what you'd want is some consolidation here. So we maybe start reclaiming this, we come down, hit the 9 again, push up. Ideally, what you'd want is just another bull flag to form there. The flagpole, the actual bull flag forming here to a breakout to this $43 zone. There will be massive resistance, though. I mean, you know, with all the bullish momentum that we're gaining on the lower time frames, it makes sense to at least test this zone. Is it just $38.50 before it rejects? Well, I don't think this will be a big rejection zone just because of how the 4-hour looks, but something to be aware of. I think the big one will come right here, right at this $43 zone, because you have to keep in mind, this is like right before bears are going to lose control on the weekly. So you would expect them to step in and ideally reject this, not break even this wick high that I mentioned, which was at $44.24. And then if they do start rejecting this, you'd want this, if you were bearish, to start rolling over right here. You know, then that would just basically solidify the weekly EMA 100 as resistance, while potentially still forming, while keeping the downtrend on the weekly. You could argue, well, couldn't this be the last lower high? Yeah, but I'm liking the way that this rejected this major zone, formed this wick top right here. And then this essentially led to the breakdown to the lower low. So on the weekly, you have to really watch this area closely, because if the weekly downtrend does break while the lower time frames are gaining good momentum, you know, then we have to start looking at possibly another move like we saw with this and this. You know, anytime this $43 zone was reclaimed, we always go and back test it. Even here, reclaim, came down, back tested it there. And then as long as that 43.40 is holding, and the nice part about this is we now have a major moving average lined up with it. So you kind of know where you're wrong. You just need to follow this weekly EMA 100. Then we should have enough momentum to easily press $50 to $51, if not higher. So be very mindful. This chart's looking quite good. Massive engulfing on the weekly. I know there was a hammerhead. I think it was on the 3-day. Yeah, massive hammerhead on the 3-day, which to me, you know, when you see this after a big downtrend, trending market, this is exactly the kind of candle at least to mark a lower time frame bottom. Usually you get bullish hammerhead reversal candles near the end of a downtrend, in my opinion. You know, we're also getting that cross on the 3-day, which makes sense if the weekly is about to cross. And so basically in summary, you know, as long as the daily doesn't reject where it's at now and we start actually reclaiming it, I don't see why we wouldn't press up to this $38. There's too many things showing me that bulls are taking back control. You know, we're getting the daily trend shift. We're now well above the EMA 100, which would have been your first point here. You know, oh, wow. Okay. So this actually did start reclaiming this. We closed above it. Now it's holding it as support for over 2 candle closures. Then it would be a logical place to start bidding here. And that's kind of why we're seeing the breakout of the bull flag as well. because, you know, this daily EMA 100 was a massive rejection point through and through. Even just keeping price down all the way here, forming this flag. And so ideally then what you'd want is that to keep holding, reclaiming this SMA 200 on the daily, which will line up then if we do that, probably of the weekly reclaiming the 34. And then, yeah, we just have to look at the two zones, which is 38.50, 38. Yeah, it's $38.50 as a resistant one. Resistant two will be this $43.40, which is massive. If it does close weeklies back above this, I do think that bulls have control fully again. You'd ideally just want this zone to hold, assuming we get support from the 9, and then you have to just target the $50 zone. Nice psychological point. We also see here, if we just draw another meme line, you know, that's right around essentially, you know, this last rejection high. So ideally, you know, we press up above here. You know, we watch this zone, but, you know, there's no point to talk about this while we have massive resistance here. So be very mindful of that. Yes, the daily's flipping. Yes, the 12-hour slipping, the 4-hour looks great. There's a shift, but in my opinion, it doesn't get solidified as long as the daily is under this SMA 200. If we can actually start reclaiming it, then, you know, bulls can actually get an argument that we're going to get a nice impulsive move essentially. But you'd want it to form a spring. And ideally, if it does reclaim this, you know, you want this to start consolidating up above this zone for a push up to 43. So as it stands, you know, this chart's looking pretty good. It's looking like it is possibly in the makings of a uptrend. And we're seeing that on the lower time frames, daily and under. We just would really like to get that solidified with the weekly, in my opinion. If the weekly can flip the trend to up, you know, we've seen how when this is when basically it is in a weekly uptrend, you know, and it does aggressively move up. So ideally, that's what you'd want. And even here, when it flipped to downtrend, as soon as we broke the last basically lower high here, you know, price chopped, consolidated, and then that's what led to the expansion all the way up to $69, which is a beautiful number.
Gorgeous.
So, you know, overall, very constructive, great chart. A lot of things are flipping to bullish. Nice silver cross on the daily. Just really watch this here, this SMA 200. Why I do think it will break. Probably get some rejection here, meaning we're not going to reject and come all the way down to here. Probably just get some pullback around here. You know, does it lead into the daily closure? I don't know, but, you know, if it does tap this, I'd expect maybe a doji to form, if not just to reject and then break out. And why I think that is because, you know, when BWP is hitting extremes here, and we're now seeing it expand, this number can easily go up to 50%, which to me, getting above 50% would mean we are well above this SMA 200. So, you know, watch very closely. Silver cross to the upside on the daily also means you should be respecting this 9. So this 9 should be an opportunity. And if we start losing the 9, then look at the 21, because the daily 21 is lining up nicely with this daily 100. And as long as we're above this EMA 100 on the daily, you know, it's more bullish than bearish, I guess. Once we reclaim this SMA 200, it's very bullish. And then that should have implications for a nice weekly closure. Now, before I go, just want to see the monthly, and, you know, the monthly also lines up with what I'm saying. Like, it's looking good. We just really, especially on the daily, it'll be a good point of like congestion first of, you know, if bulls can really take back control in the sense that it does reclaim that SMA 200. And the nice part is we're getting, you know, that weekly 34, the daily SMA 200, and now also the monthly 9, all coming in right around that $36, $37 zone. So yes, it's bullish. Yes, it's looking good. It's in the makings of flipping the weekly trend up, potentially if it can test that $43 zone. But, you know, if you haven't positioned, especially at this point when we did reclaim that daily EMA 100 here, you know, then there's essentially no trade here. You're just patiently waiting to see the reaction if this SMA 200 gets reclaimed. If it does, then what you'd ideally want is something like this, where we reclaim the EMA 100, we pumped, we don't long on this pump. You could either take a position here once we reclaimed it, but I personally like letting it come down first, let it prove to me that it is support. That'd be the same idea here. Reclaims it and then actually bases on it on like as support. And all that will essentially do is flip it, and then we'll base, and then it gives a trade, because now you know on the daily where you're wrong. Any closures back under here, we have to start looking back at this potential 21 as an opportunity. And that could just be another higher low. So, watch closely. You shouldn't be longing here. Lots of resistance right around this zone. But the nice part is we should know within the end of this week how bullish this is going to be. If the 34 gets reclaimed, the monthly reclaims the 9 as well. Then this has heavy implications again for what? Probably testing this monthly 21, which again lines up nicely with our range here at $43, and exactly with what I'm saying. Because you could argue, well, if the SMA 200 gets reclaimed, Alex, what about this $38 resistance zone, which is pretty big? And I agree with you, and that's why I'm saying, if this does get reclaimed, watch this as the next resistance zone. We probably get some reaction here, and maybe this leads to the backtest of the SMA 200. But overall, I'm not holding a lot of weight on this resistance, keeping us down for too long, considering everything else is shifting, and we just need that basically daily SMA 200 reclaim to kind of confirm that for me. And then ideally, that'll just start bleeding into the weekly, the 3-day, then the monthly. And then, I'm curious, just because it's coming up, so why not? How is the quarterly looking on this chart? And the quarterly is not looking bad. We have a nice hammerhead here forming on the quarterly, which just plays into what I'm saying, which basically could just be this could be a nice bottoming zone. That this low basically formed at 28.50. If we form a quarterly hammerhead, then ideally what we'd want is, just continuation to the next quarter. Which, I'm liking this essentially 9 matching up with that $43 zone. Lots of confluence on that $43 zone. Something that we have to take into account is this fresh cross here. Hasn't ever happened on the chart. So it is something to consider, the 9 flipping under the 21 on a quarterly for the first time ever. So we don't know the reaction of how that's going to be. But all I can say is, usually when you get these crosses, you do test the 9. So then this should be a nice resistance, which again just lines up with what I'm saying, especially in the weekly. This is lining up nicely with that resistance zone. So overall, strong chart, looking better, looking more constructive, especially on like the lower time frames. There's not really much but air from this point, and we have nice gaps here as well that could easily get us and push us above this $38 zone. So yeah, watch closely. I'd be, with all these time frames closing in about 7 days, I'd be mainly just focused, if I was trading on this, on the daily. I'd just be trading on the daily, in my opinion, because it's a lot more easier to know you're wrong, and you also don't need to wait multiple days for closures. I'd just be waiting and watching the daily. Big zone here at this SMA 200, which we are approaching.
Thank you, sir. Nvidia for you right after. Thank you. Ok, tenemos YUMC, que es Yum China Holdings, que es algo de restaurantes en China. Para todos ustedes que no sepan, esto abrió en el 2016, está cotizando en $36.46. Y estamos viendo una tabla semanal, es lo primero que les quiero enseñar. Quiero que estén al tanto de esto, ¿ok? Porque acá tenemos un alto más bajo, acá tenemos bajos y tenemos bajos más bajos. Entonces, ahora lo que estamos intentando es formar estructura para poder decir, vale, va a cambiar ahorita la tendencia de esto, y sobre todo las noticias que han salido de esto es de que deberías de comprar esto a huevo, es lo único que hay. Deberías de comprar esta acción, ¿por qué tienes que comprar esto? ¿Por qué necesitas esto en tu portafolio y sería una gran adición? Normalmente eso a mí me hace ser sospechoso de todo, pero los voy a llevar a la gráfica trimestral y vamos a empezar a sacar puntos de análisis. Lo primero que notamos es esta debilidad acá del 9 bajando sobre el 21. Es la primera vez que pasa en la tabla. Eso es algo que tenemos que tener en mente, pero normalmente cuando tienes eso, ¿qué es lo que pasa? El precio viene a intentar ser rechazado por el 21 y el 21 está en 43.90, lo que dice que va a seguir bajando y tenemos un cierre en 7 días, 6 horas, por lo que esta línea en $43 se vuelve bastante importante y probablemente una zona de rechazo. Pero si ves el precio está en 36, a los 43 tienes bastante subida. Vámonos a un mes rápidamente. Y en la mensual podemos ver que también tienes el promedio de las 21 por acá y le gusta venir a retestearlo y a veces ser rechazado por el 21. Eso nos pone también el número por ahí de los 46, 42, 62, lo que nos da bastante buena vibra si podemos romper este nivel tan importante en la mensual de los 36.95. Si podemos agarrar y trepar el precio encima de este promedio de las 9, los 36.95, verán por qué es muy importante ahorita. Los voy a llevar a la semanal y pueden ver que en la semanal estamos a punto de flipar el 9 por encima del 21. El precio subió arriba del 9. Normalmente el precio cuando sube y agarra la 9 tiene bastante buenas movidas a la alza. Acá lo tomó y puedes ver hasta dónde llegó el precio. Es un 51% a la alza. Eso, ponte tú, si se llegara a repetir este movimiento en 51%, nos lleva justamente en donde está el promedio de las 200 en la semanal, que es 50.75. Ahora vamos a voltear a ver rápidamente a la diaria. En la diaria, porque recuerda, mientras más corta la temporalidad, más inmediato va a ser el movimiento que estás viendo. En la diaria tienes el promedio de las 200 justamente donde estábamos hablando, en las 36.63, que es donde está el promedio de las 9 en la mensual. Y aquí es donde se pone interesante la cosa. Tienes un cruce plateado a la alza, estás por encima del 9, vas a ir a retestear el 200 y es aquí donde se pone fácil la cosa. ¿Por qué? Porque si llegas a romper este retest de los 200 que está en 36.63 y empiezas a consolidar por acá arriba, tu siguiente objetivo va a estar acá en los 38.48. De ahí muy probablemente vayas a tener aire limpio hasta los 43. Entonces, importante mantener estos niveles. Si llegas a perder esta zona de los 34, probablemente donde está esta línea de tendencia, tienes que absolutamente poder holdear esta zona. Si no, vas a venir a cerrar el gap acá a los 29.95. Entonces, es muy importante no tener cierres abajo del 32. Sería imperativo. Yo diría que en la primera zona donde no quieres tener cierres abajo de eso son los 33. Tantito abajo de los 34, 48 no me molestaría ver, pero por ahora el precio de YOM se ve bastante alcista. Tienes esto, el precio trepándose en la 9, agarrándola y surfeándola, y ahora tu primer rechazo sería el 200, y eso no te debería de preocupar. Eso te daría una buena oportunidad para entrar, y esto ha pasado varias veces, donde el precio intenta retomarlo, rechazo, y luego lo puedes ver volver a subir. Y es justamente, no ha retomado ese 200 en un rato en la diaria, por lo que nos dice que va a ser un punto muy importante en contra del precio y no lo ha venido a testear en un rato. Y si volteas a ver la de 4 horas, se ve aún más alcista con literalmente todo por abajo, todos los promedios, y esto disparándose a la alza. Y de nuevo, temporalidades cortas te dan el movimiento más cercano en vez del lejano. Así que pongan atención paso a paso, nivel por nivel. Yo creo que lo más importante es poder cerrar arriba de los, en la semanal, ¿dónde estaba? No, en la diaria. Arriba de los 36.63. Si podemos hacer eso, consolidar por acá y empezar a buscar, tu siguiente objetivo son los 38 y de ahí los 43. Y sería interesante que esto ya formó un suelo. Y también acá podrías ver, si te gusta el Candlestick Theory, lo que podría ser un piso, porque es el McDonald's al revés, como ustedes lo conocen. Vale, vamos a darle con Farhan a Apple, damas y caballeros. ¿Cómo de que no? Con Yahaira. Give it to me, baby.
Apple, biggest company in the well, not anymore. They were the biggest company in the world.
Not anymore, is right. And I can't believe Microsoft, of all companies, is the one that fucking dethroned them, because Microsoft has been shit forever, but now they do a billion other things other than computers.
Yeah, that was a fuck, right? Is it AI? Is it web storage? Like, what is it that got Microsoft to dethrone Apple?
Everything, just everything altogether.
I don't know. I feel like you wait for those new iPhones. Maybe the buy, what do you call it, pressure will surprise everyone.
I just feel like what they're doing with the iPhones, they're not selling any more iPhones because they're too expensive. So the financing is like where it's at. I feel like those finance companies that break everything into payments are going to kill it for the next 5 years.
Yeah, and Apple's making a lot of money off of services too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, the app store, they're partners with everyone. First money grossed like out of each company that's on the app store. If you think about it, they're the richest, most partnered up company with everyone. They're taking gross profits from anything that's on their store.
They had that one loss, Epic Games, I think, where they're like, yeah, you can't be taking all of this. I think they were taking 30%, something like that. And the judge was like,
Yep.
yeah, you can't be taking all of that.
But they still do in different ways, so it's still fucked.
Is that how it was with your apps? Did Apple come like the mob and be like, you got to give us our cut?
Well, the moment that you sign up, that's what they do. The moment that you sign up, literally, Apple goes, you know that you're doing a 30%. You cannot get users to register on another website, like or directly. You need to do it through us. That's something that they changed. Now you can go on another website and register, pay the lowest fee. But while we were doing the other shit, they were like, you have to go through us for everything, and our payment our plans do not set, because remember the membership on Salamandrian was like $269 a month.
Yeah.
All right, so Apple was like, no, that number doesn't exist in my database, so you're either going to charge $320 or like $350 or like $5, whatever they wanted. It's not flexible. And also the other thing I hate is like how they tell you how you need to run your business. It's or else they won't upload your shit. Like, it's pretty gangster what they do.
Apple is straight up a mob.
Yep.
All right, so on the monthly, on that, let's start on the quarterly, a little bit of a higher time frame. So on the quarterly, we got that big and long play that I like to call it, that we were looking at on Bitcoin earlier, or the other chart we were looking at.
Yeah, Rivian, no?
Yeah, Rivian.
No.
What was the first one that I did?
Amazon, dude.
Yeah, we saw it on Amazon. My bad. We also have it on Bitcoin as well, but we'll look at that one later. But the way the Bing and Bong play works is you close over one of these levels. You close over the 38.2. You close over the median. Your next target is either the median or the 38.2. So we close over the median on the quarterly on Apple. So then we hit our next target, which was the top of the 38.2. Right there, we're finding some resistance. It is normal to find some resistance here. You wouldn't expect it to just blast past this area. You still have 7 days and 6 hours to go. If we get a close above this area at $237.30, the door opens up to for continuation from here to go somewhere between the 50% and the 61.8%, which right now is at $268.72 and $295.78. The reason why I think that it's probably gonna go towards that 61.8% at $295 is if you look at our HBR momentum, we are breaking up. We're still within the positive territory, but we have so much more we can go. We have not even broken into the bullish control zone yet. And on top of that, we have our volatility supporting it and ticking up as well. So that tells us that we have a good amount of room to go here on momentum before we've topped out. And we're already at the top 38.2 zone. So that gives us easily enough juice to break above this 50% and probably hit somewhere around this 61.8%, which is $295.78. That would basically be the psychological number of 300. If you're that close, you're probably going to hit the 300 area. Very likely find some resistance there. Maybe pull back a little bit, go sideways, and then make your next move towards the upside. But that $300 level is going to be a very important psychological level. It's going to be where a whole bunch of your sell asks are at, and it's going to be a whole bunch of where your take profits are at. From there, you should be looking for a little bit of consolidation while these ranges move up, while these oscillators reset, and then from there you can try to look for another move up again. Right now on the Joule, we do have the Joule flipping back around from the sell and neutral to light blue cyan buy signal, while we do have this God mode sell background. The sell background God mode started around right here when price was at around $91.20. But the most the God mode background was able to get some sideways consolidation for a little bit before a move up, some sideways consolidation, and then another move up. So right now, this God mode sell background is not really doing anything much of significance. All it's doing is giving us sideways at worst and up at best. Right now, we're getting the up move along with the light blue cyan buy signal. We were getting these up moves while the Joule was still on a dark blue sell signal. So it tells you that whenever you're getting an up move, whenever you have a dark blue sell signal with a red God mode background, that the asset is very strong, and the oscillators were not able to take over and push momentum towards the downside and have it break any one of the major moving averages. All it did was made it go sideways and up, which whenever it's going sideways and up on a sell signal, it should probably outperform that on a buy signal. So we're just now getting the buy signal, and we're about to approach resistance right up here, right around the bullish critical zone. We got to see if it can break up from here, and if it does, then very likely we're going to break that 50% on the HPDR right around 295 and probably go somewhere around into the $300 range. Monthly. The monthly right now, it's the same thing. It's brushing right up against the top of the blue 38.2 zone. It's touched it several times and found resistance. This is the third time that we're getting near to that area. Third time usually is when it breaks. If we can close above this 38.2% at $232.28, our next target is going to be the 61.8%, which right now is at $259.07. I would expect some resistance here. I wouldn't expect to just go straight there, maybe come back down to this top 38.2. And then from there, I would expect a healthy blast within the 300s. Probably somewhere around this 78.6, maybe a little bit higher than 78.6. 78.6 is right now at 292. I could expect some move into maybe the low 300s. And then from there, I'd expect a sharp rejection and then end up retesting these previous support levels that we've made over here, where we've marked them as resistance. It's going to be turning a resistance into a support. And we look at our HPDR momentum, that's also flipping up into the positive territory. It's well within the positive area right now. And the volatility is flipping up, and the jewel is also giving us this light blue buy signal. So everything is coming around, telling us that we should be looking for consolidation and up from here. Our monthly and quarterly are giving us very strong signals of continuation. All we have to wait for is confirmation of the close above the blue 38.2 zone. If we keep projecting it though, and if we go up to test this blue 38.2 zone like we have, and we keep projecting it, our next target is probably going to be the median, which is at 206.21, and then below that is going to be the bottom 38.2 zone, which is at 173.67. But that's not going to be actionable until we get this monthly closure, and we still see a rejection from this median. On the weekly, let's let this load. All right, so the weekly right now, we just got to close over the median, and we're getting a back test and getting support right around that median in 5 EMA. Based off statistical probabilities, we should be hitting this top 38.2% next, which is right around $239.55. Our monthly HPDR momentum is breaking into the positive area, whilst volatility is flipping up as well to support that move towards hitting that top 38.2% zone. But it's not going to tell us we're going to break it. It's only going to give us a probability of hitting it. Right now, we have a 61.8% chance of hitting that 239.55 number, probably somewhere around 240. Maybe if it's really bullish, you can get up to the 50% at 245. But that is less of a chance as of right now as hitting this blue top 38.2% zone. Let's check the 2-day. The 2-day right now is giving us the same sign where we're above the median. We're basing off of this median area, and right now we should be looking for somewhere between the 38.2 and the 50% area to find our next local top before we find the consolidation. Right now, that area is between 233.35 and 236.90. Very likely, though, like we were looking at before, we probably go to somewhere around the 240 area before we make our local top. So that's going to be another psychological number, which is going by tens, like 220, 230, 240. That 240 number, I think we're probably going to go to for our next local top based on the monthly and the quarterly. And then I would expect maybe 2 or 3 months of sideways from there, maybe a pullback before we try again. And while these ranges move back towards the upside and the volatility oscillators reset. And right now, the reason why I'm getting that, another reason why I'm getting that bias for 240s is because it lines up right exactly with the 61.8% on the weekly, the 2-day HPDR bands. Whenever you get a number like that lines up exactly with one of your major Fibonacci levels, it usually makes it a stronger point of confluence for to find more logical tops and bottoms. Check the daily. The daily is the same thing where we rejected the top blue 38.2 zone twice. We're finding some support at the 5 EMA, and now we're trying it again. Third time is usually the time it breaks. If it does reject this time again, then very likely we're going to come back down towards this area right here, the median at 224. But very likely we don't find a bottom there and we come back down towards the blue 30 at 2 zone, which is currently at 217. But that's not going to be confirmed until we get a close that confirms a rejection of this area or a close that confirms an acceptance above this area. So until then, we have to wait until our confirmations. Let's check the RSI. Load, please. All right, in the quarterly, we have nothing. Monthly, we do have some confirmed bullish divergence right here at the edge of the bullish control zone on this test of down here towards this 21 EMA. So we are getting expansion from there, and we are getting, do I see something over here? Yeah, we have a little bit of a shoulder right here, a head, and a shoulder right here. So we have somewhat of a bastardized inverse head and shoulders. It's not the strongest, but it's still active, still valid. And if we do continue to close above this bullish control zone right here, which is at 227.58, this will be validated, and we would get a measured move from there to exactly the top of the bullish critical zone. Right now, that level sits at $340.08. I wouldn't expect us to go straight up to $340 though. I would expect us to find stops at every single psychological level, like 250, 275, 300, 325. I expect stops along all those ways, especially because of how big an asset Apple is. It's over, if I believe, $3 trillion right now. Yeah, almost $3.5 trillion. So it's going to take a long time for a move like that to play out. For how much of a percent move is that? To 340? Yeah, that's about 49-50% move up from here. That's adding close to $1.7 trillion to the market cap. So you got to remember that every time you see a stock as big as Apple, and you see moves like that, like statistically likely, you got to remember they're going to take a long time because they're adding trillions of dollars to the market cap of the asset, and trillions of dollars don't move fast; they flow pretty slowly. So it's a thing like this to play out for that 340 target will probably take. And this is a monthly chart, maybe a year to play out, maybe a year and a half before anything like that plays out.
I was going to say, yeah, because you started on the big time frame on the quarterly, and the number is ridiculous considering how big the company is. That was the first thought I had. And it just goes, I'm just in line with what you're saying, that it's not going to be right away. It's going to take a while. But if gold is telling us something, is that inflation's coming back at some point, right? Or at least money devaluation. And this is absolutely possible without a doubt, like without a fucking doubt.
Mm-hmm. And we would be expecting a move up as long as we hold this bullish control zone here on the monthly RSI. Because if we don't get kicked out of that, that tells us the bulls are very strongly in control, and that's going to kick in this inverse head and shoulders towards that bullish critical zone target. It seems crazy to think about it now, but what was Apple at just a year and a half ago, right? Just a year and a half ago. That would be 6 months, March of 2023. Yeah, March of 2023, Apple's sitting here at $146. We are now at 228. We are currently a little about 60% higher than where we were in a year and a half ago. So if we went a year and a half, 60% up in a year and a half, why can't we go up another 30% in a year and a half, right?
Yeah, no, it should be absolutely doable.
Check the weekly. Weekly right now has some confirmed hidden bullish divergence right here, and we're testing currently the bottom of the bullish control zone, and we're getting a bounce. The bullish control zone right now is at 224.94. As long as we keep bouncing from there, we're likely to hit the bullish critical zone. And that number is currently at $280.62. And then we look at the Jewel VMP. It shows you that we're losing our sell signal and we're flipping around into this white neutral signal. After this close, the next open, we're going to get a light blue cyan buy signal. And we are getting low volatility along with that too. So that's telling us that this is going to be a pretty big move whenever we do find a decision on which direction we're going to go. While on the BBWP, we have literally zero volatility. We're at 0.79 on volatility. That's telling us that whenever this volatility does expand, it's going to be a very powerful move from here. And right now, all of our other indicators are telling us that it's likely to be to the upside. 5-day has some possible hidden bullish divergence right here. It's going to confirm in 2 days and 5 hours. And if it does confirm, that's going to be a rejection of getting kicked out of the bullish control zone. And our next target is going to be the bullish critical zone. And right now that number is at $238.44. Right around that $230, $240 number we've been looking at this whole time. 3-day also possible hidden bullish divergence. It's going to be a projection of the bearish control zone. That's going to take us back into the bullish control zone and the bullish critical zone. That would give us targets of $233.37 first, and then $289 after that. Right around that top $300 number. 2-day has confirmed bullish divergence right here within the bullish control zone. We're still rejecting the bullish control zone. That number is at 233.09. As soon as we get acceptance above that area, our next logical target is going to be the bullish critical zone. And right now that number is sitting at 275.75. And the daily right now is not giving us much. Only ones we really have confirmation of anything on are the 2-day where we have bullish divergence. 3-day we have possible hidden bullish divergence. 5-day we have possible hidden bullish divergence. Weekly we have confirmed hidden bullish divergence, and monthly we have confirmed bullish divergence. That is giving us slightly biased towards the upside. We're waiting to see if we can get these confirmations on the HBDR chart, closure above the 38.2, and that would confirm our expansion towards the upside before we look for any more sort of consolidation or downside. But like I said before, these moves are going to take a long time to play out because Apple is $3.5 trillion stock.
Yeah, I'd say so. Palantir, which should be fun. I'll do this one now. Vale, estamos viendo Apple y de acuerdo a todos los indicadores que nos enseña Farhan, estamos viendo en una temporalidad de 3 meses y ahí les va sencillamente esto. Pueden ver que el precio estaba encima de la 9 desde el 2008 y muy pocas veces en verdad cae. Cuando cae en este tipo de circunstancias, siempre ha sido una excelente oportunidad de compra y lo pueden ver 1, 2, 3, 4 veces, 5 veces. Y normalmente solamente son 2 velas. Eso quiere decir que 6 meses te presenta esta oportunidad de compra. En este momento venimos en este momento venimos y brincamos de acá, tal cual. Esta vez no nos dio ni siquiera esa oportunidad de como esta de 6 meses. Esta vez fue simplemente rápido. Y de acá dio un salto a este nivel. Ahora, el alto más alto que ha hecho Apple está por ahí de los 236.88. Está cotizando en este momento en 228.72. Esta es una empresa de 3.5 trillones de dólares. 3.5 trillones de dólares. Un movimiento de 10% a la alza quiere decir que está subiendo 350,000 millones de dólares en valor la empresa, para que tengan eso mucho en mente. Ahora, cuando volteamos a ver todos los timeframes y cuando estamos usando los indicadores de Farhan, sobre todo el HBDR, donde nos enseña esa zona azul en el 38.2%, ¿qué es lo que estamos buscando en este momento? Y yo creo que todas las temporalidades van a coincidir con esto. 1. Queremos llegar y romper los 237 y tener un cierre por encima de esto. Eso es el primer objetivo. Una vez que logres eso en la trimestral, puedes ponerte de objetivo siguiente los 267 y de ahí los 297, que son relativamente cercanos a los 300, por lo que sentimos que podríamos tocar los 300. Eso sería un movimiento de precio de donde estamos a donde vamos de 30%. Eso tendría sentido. Apple valdría 4 trillones y medio y sobre todo cuando consideramos qué tan castigado va a estar el dólar con lo que nos está diciendo el oro. No tiene por qué no, si están devaluando el dólar a los pasos que lo están devaluando. Vale, vamos a la de un mes. Podemos ver claramente, seguimos y atractivamente encima de la 9 encima de la 21 y todos los promedios abajo como ahora es que como siempre, y pueden ver esta oportunidad, lo rápida que se dio, fue literalmente menos de un mes y acá instantáneamente te dio el subidón gongo. Déjenme borro una que otra pendejadilla que tenía por ahí en la tabla. Ahí está, ya toda. Y acá es donde pueden ver dónde está el precio en este momento, buscando un cierre arriba de esto. En la semanal estamos viendo un poco de lo mismo. Podemos ver que tuvimos este cruce de la 9 sobre el 21, lo que nos demostró que tenía demasiada fuerza el precio. Si sigues Candlestick Formation Theory, esto es un hombro, cabeza, hombro que se está desarrollando a la alza y esto tiene un objetivo de, cuando lo rompa, digamos que va a ser por acá más o menos, y que lo rompas acá. Eso nos da un objetivo en los 2.75 que más o menos cuadra con exactamente todo lo que estamos diciendo en este momento. Esta resistencia ya la rompieron, por lo que podemos checarla, seguir para arriba. Y no hay ninguna sola vela acá de tope. Eso es bueno para seguir y darnos continuación con el movimiento. En la diaria podemos ver que acabamos de cruzar el 9 encima del 21, lo que le empieza a dar esta momentum acá. Tienes que asegurarte que este cierre del día de hoy no sea abajo de los 2.27.54. Queremos mantenernos encima de ello. Acabamos de romper este alto, por lo que eliminamos esta vela de tope. Esta es una vela topona, pero de nuevo, siempre y cuando cerremos donde estamos el día de hoy, en los 2.28.61 o simplemente arriba de los 2.27.64, la tendencia debería de continuar hacia la alza y eso nos debería llevar con nuestro siguiente objetivo a los 2.37, poder romper ahí, tener un cierre, dos cierres diarios para tener una confirmación y de ahí poder esperar nuestro siguiente movimiento al alza a los 2.67. Apple se ve bien, tiene bastante fuerza, tiene momentum, tiene todo yendo a su favor, hay también divergencias alcistas en diferentes temporalidades, pero el precio va a tomar tiempo en llegar a los siguientes niveles porque es una empresa tan grande que le estarías pidiendo de más. Es demasiado dinero de crear de la nada. Así que ahí lo tienen, eso es Apple. Y vámonos con Nvidia, como de que no, y la tabla de Alex.
Nice.
Ready, señor.
So last week on Nvidia, it was pretty volatile. We got that nice dark mall wick. This is when we just like aggressively move down and then up and then just closes a doji. Basically smoking longs and shorts that we're just playing within that range. But one thing to take note is, we did not reclaim the weekly EMA 9. So for me, going into this week, slightly cautious, especially since we did mention, and it's more evident on like a daily, the scenario that, potentially we get some kind of bounce from this zone if we reclaim the daily EMA 100. And then what I'd be looking for is potentially another retest of this diagonal mean line, that I've simply had on the chart for weeks now, but it's worked. And after we reclaimed, essentially, I remember during earnings when we reclaimed this, the 115 zone, there was like a silver cross on the daily. It was just consolidating. The issue was I wasn't fully bullish on that because of earnings. And then after earnings, that's when we broke down. We essentially tapped this diagonal here. Still keeping, the higher low structure, but, here's where it gets interesting because Nvidia could really start rolling over if it starts losing this daily EMA 9 now. It's been chopping around it, but what we have, especially if you go to like a lower time frame now, let's do like a 5 hour, you can see in this chop, it's essentially losing steam. And we're forming a lower high here while also still rejecting the diagonal. So, today what bears essentially want is this to turn into, like a head and shoulders pattern, or even just if you view it this way, just a bearish retest. And then, you'd expect essentially us to start breaking down. If we do lose, this daily, in my opinion, this daily 9, this will then give us more of a chance because we have this shooting star right here to then rejection, while also deviating this as well. This meme line, which likes to hold when Nvidia isn't so choppy. We saw that in this range here when it likes to slingshot from this green line. But the fact that it just couldn't even reclaim it for more than 3 candle closures, to me tells me it's weak. We're also basically rejecting, forming like a bearish retest. Since we did reclaim this, it deviated. So then what we'd expect is a rally into this, basically rejecting it. So I'd be very cautious of that, because if it does lose the 9, the next target for me would just be the 100 again, right around $110.30, and this is on the daily. For me, that would be a big spot. If it starts losing that, overall, it won't look good. And retesting this the third time, probably we'd have to be cautious about it breaking this time. Especially when you start putting in the perspective of the weekly losing the 9 as well. Overall, the weekly in this whole uptrend really like to constantly be held. It doesn't like to be below it for very long. And it wasn't until we got, 3 candle closures below it, we bounced at the 34 essentially, forming this chop that now is, if you connect it, we're close to the end of it. So we'd essentially see something happen if this channel is gonna be true. And as it stands, it's looking more for a breakdown. So today, really, in my opinion, bulls need to step up. They need to bounce here, because then they run the risk of us coming all the way down to that $110, which then at that point, I won't see. We'd expect this to hold essentially, but we have to be mindful as well, since breaking above it. And then consolidating around resistance while also just rejecting and also retesting it, this diagonal after it deviated. We actually haven't gotten proven that this is support yet. So I'd be very cautious of that. We'd have to wait and see what the reaction is at this EMA 100, because we haven't been to it since we broke above it, and we haven't retested it. So ideally, we'd want this to prove to us that this is support. If we start losing this, then we'll absolutely then test this 107 zone again. But if we then start breaking down, it'll be, to me, a confirmed breakdown, because breaking back below, call it 105. If it gets any daily closures around like 105, this meme line right now is at 106.27. So I guess if it 106 is a better gauge, I guess, any daily closures below it. Then that essentially means that, on all the lower time frames, like even the 4-hour, we've lost then the SMA 200 on the 4-hour, fully deviated all the moving averages and meme lines, and it's a confirmed just breakdown of this channel. Has a date of around, if you guys want the date, October 9th. So we'll see, assuming it comes down, maybe bounces and then that, or breaks out. It could definitely break out, but as it stands, bulls would need to step in. And the 4-hour kind of points it out nicely, like right around here. Like we're almost to the point where, if the daily and the 4-hour starts closing like this, it won't be good news, because then what you have here is just another deviation, lower high on the 4-hour. Then it would give us more steam to probably run this low. And at that point, it could run the risk ultimately of this losing the 4-hour SMA 200. If you guys trade that, I usually only like it on a lower time frame. So if we take the SMA 200 off and we just look at what we have now, losing all these moving averages, especially in this cluster here, we know in a cluster, it generally makes it stronger, in my opinion. So when we lose it, it can just solidify the resistance. So yeah, I'd be cautious, because then, next 4-hour closure, the 9, could start crossing all these, giving us potentially, that full cross below the 21. Just solidifying, we'll probably have more of a chance of running this zone. And then that also could bleed into the daily as well. And I also think, since the quarterly is coming up, it actually looks kind of interesting to me, because, on the quarterly here, BBWP actually hit extremes, and it's now starting to curve down. So, when you hit extremes, it would make a lot of sense for this to start, actually coming down and resetting. So I think into next quarter, if this still is at extremes, or, hasn't like reset a bunch, there's definitely that also could give bears more momentum to at least, come down, especially when, this was up only. It'd make a lot of sense to, have some healthy consolidation for sure, maybe into next quarter potentially. That I'd be very cautious of, Nvidia, especially. This potentially could just be if you guys like Hanging Man, because it's not a full doji yet. So we'd have to see it. It very well could turn into a doji though before the quarterly closes, especially if what we're seeing with the daily and the weekly do start coming down. Then I guess it could potentially be a doji just on the quarterly, which more is indecision, but never good, especially when we know BBWP is at extremes. It could just solidify the chop and then even coming down into next quarter, potentially to reset that.
Wouldn't you say that if you look at it quarterly, the last green candle was actually a massive doji?
Let's see this. Yeah,
it's literally in between everything. It's like indecision, like fully personified, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. This is definitely I'm unsure about the candle body in a doji, but yeah, to the book this is because it just is leaving almost like the same degree too of wick bodies. So generally indecision, and then what we're getting here is around the same, but this isn't a full one yet. So like this again could be the argument of like a hangman with BBWP at extremes, with it potentially looking even on the daily and the weekly like it is starting to break down, and then very healthily could just come down to the 9. We'll have to see where this 9 actually comes. It'll definitely move up on this quarterly close. Getting more closer to this $82 zone would be nice, but even if it comes all the way down to the 9, it still would be perfectly fine on a really macro scale, in my opinion. But the monthly, then that would mean we've lost essentially the monthly 9 for the first time in a very long time. Basically December of 2022. And this whole entire rally, it's funny because shorts have been extremely aggressive on this chart, but when you actually just take it on a monthly, it kind of puts in a perspective where this kind like I like using the EMA 9 on monthlies, especially because even on Bitcoin we can't call it a full bear market as long as we are above it, because it's just long as history has shown us this has been like a bull market. It likes to hold in bull markets. As soon as we start losing it, that's where we start actually fully breaking down. In this chop here, that's where on the lower time frames it can be handy as a trader to kind of see what we don't know currently in terms of volatility and price action. But as soon as it did lose it and even lost to 21, that's just where the chop began. So in my opinion, this monthly is interesting to me because it is still holding the 9, but also it's not looking good in the sense that it's closing in this isn't the most healthiest candle. With BBWP has been at extremes for a while now. So, but what I like to see is it's slightly curving down and under the moving average now. So, for me, with everything into in the next few months, to me it seems like Nvidia definitely could at least chop. That's what bulls would hope for. If not, definitely come down more again and even tap the monthly 9 again. And then depending on if that starts losing it, then we'll have to see essentially the reaction of the retest. And if it rejects it, then my next target, if it does lose the monthly 9, would be at this point $74. But next monthly closure, this will start moving up. So ideally, this would move up again with this $82 zone, which potentially could just line up with the quarterly retesting the 9 or wicking to the 9 even, which would be, in my opinion, like healthy, a retest of the 9 again, because as the monthly shows, the quarterly is very strong, and the 9 doesn't like to get tapped a lot, but when it does, it's often been an opportunity. So that is something I'll be watching closely. Since we viewed the weekly, I'll view the 2-week. And so the 2-week, to me, did reclaim the 9. So that is something to, keep in just in the back of your head. We did reclaim it, but we've just been chopping around it. So on the weekly now, so far we are losing it. We'll have to see how this closes. Essentially, it's not lost by much, but we're slightly losing it and also rejecting the meme line into this week. Bears, they'll want to start pushing this down, in my opinion, soon, because if not, then this will just start basically getting BBWP more at extremes, and then this chop here if bulls try to push this up again, on the lower time frames, this resistance on the diagonal has been tested a lot. So overall, I mean, the more times it gets tested, the weaker it gets. So we'll just, Nvidia's at a point right now where bulls should step in soon if they want to keep the structure. But on the daily, if we do start losing, let's say the 9, and then coming back to the 100, to me, this spot is going to be a really big spot to pay attention to, because if this is the retest that we'd want, then we'd expect this to hold. Maybe it does wick back to the diagonal and still close a daily above this. Then if it can hold for 2-3 days, to me, then that's bullish consolidation above the 100 on the daily. After, basically, we have to look at that as like a lower time frame retest. But even then, a move like that is still, from, let's just say here, which is the area we talked about, still a nice, 7% move. So a nice trade. If it starts losing this, though, then that'll be my metric on we're probably going to break down. And this is a bigger, retest, especially on the weekly, that we were essentially waiting for. But, we'll have to wait and see. So, I mean, ideally, bulls step in here because they don't want to lose this 9, because it'll just give bears more steam to actually test this 100, which would be fine, I guess, because we're still above it. And like I mentioned, we actually haven't retested it yet. So the reaction there will be actually really key for Nvidia. So.
All righty. Thank you so much. And after that, we'll jump into Bitcoin. So I'm guessing both of you will do that.
Cool.
Perfecto. All righty. I'm going to do this one. Vale, pues, aquí tenemos Nvidia en la gráfica de 3 meses. Es la de trimestral, damas y caballeros. Voy a poner rápidamente mis indicadores. Siempre y cuando, esto es algo importante de entender con Nvidia, porque este fue el bear market que tuvo el mercado bajista, que fue en el 2022 y fue perdiendo la 9, y no es como que la perdió por mucho y se aguantó muy bien del 21. Y pueden ver que más atrás ha sido un poco de lo mismo. La única vez que tuvo ese bajón fue en julio del 2018, hasta que lo retomó por ahí del 2019 y vieron este gran subidón gongo. En este momento, a largo plazo, Nvidia tiene muchísima fuerza y obviamente sigue en una tendencia alcista sin lugar a dudas. Pero cuando nos empezamos a acercar un poco más, nos dice que probablemente a corto plazo esto nos cuente una diferente historia. ¿Por qué? Mensualmente estamos haciendo altos más bajos y también bajos más bajos. Esta es la única vela que no ha hecho un bajo más bajo hasta ahorita, que está, el mínimo que tocó fue en 100.88. En este momento Nvidia está cotizando en 115.52. El tope, lo más alto que ha cotizado es 140 con 30 y tantos centavos, dependiendo en dónde lo estés comprando. Pero pueden ver cómo no le gusta perder la 9. Entonces, cada que hay una oportunidad de compra es cuando viene a retestar la 9, y sobre todo cuando llegas a sacarte la lotería, si llegas al 21 y compras el 21, eso normalmente señala los mejores momentos para comprar Nvidia. En la semanal no es tanto así. En la semanal sí está más acostumbrado a retestear el 21 y tal vez hasta perderlo a veces, pero solamente en desviaciones momentáneas. Lo que ya en la semanal puedes ver mejor es esto. Estamos abajo del promedio de la 9 en la semanal. El promedio de la 9 se sienta en 115.95. No queremos perderlo definitivamente. Tuvimos un cierre justo en ella la semana pasada. Bueno, sí, la semana pasada. Y ahorita tienes 4 días, 5 horas, porque apenas es lunes para este cierre. Si tienes un cierre abajo de esto empezaría a pintar mal, porque ya estás haciendo estos altos más bajos, altos más bajos, altos más bajos, y creaste estos bajos, este bajo más bajo, y este es el primero que te está dando la ilusión de que tal vez Nvidia no vaya a ser más bajista de lo que estás viendo acá. Pero cuando vayamos a la diaria, en la diaria esta cosa se ve un poco más en problemas. ¿Por qué? Porque puedes ver que el 21 está por encima del 9. Es una señal de debilidad para empezar en el precio. Discúlpame, cuando el 9 baja el 21, pero está nada de pasar eso, exactamente. Duh. Y acá también tienes el promedio de los 55, donde estás probablemente también, porque lo que lo separan son el 115.66 a 115.43, estás hablando de 20 centavos. Porque si llega a bajar más el precio y pierdes los 115.42, va a haber un cruce plateado a la baja en la diaria. Y eso, pues, el último que nos dio este velazo hasta acá abajo en los 194. quieres completamente aguantar si eres alcista y poder tener un cierre mínimo arriba de los 116. Pero de ahí quieres definitivamente venir a romper este alto en los 120.80 en la próxima subida. Si ni siquiera puedes superar los 119.68, esto se ve un poco jodido para la gente que es alcista. Vamos a verlo rápido en la de 2 semanas, que también Alex nos lo puso. Y en las 2 semanas podemos ver que todavía estás por encima del promedio de la 9, pero normalmente venimos a retestear y has venido a retestear estas 2 semanas, estas 2 semanas, estas 2 semanas y estas 2 semanas. Y incluso presentaste una desviación, por lo que no descartaría que el precio pueda llegar a los $111 y con eso empezar una tendencia bajista momentánea. Y también el promedio de los 21 alineándose con los $97 me dice que tal vez hay una probabilidad de llegar a esos puntos. Entonces, si eres alcista en Nvidia, yo creo que lo más mejor que puedes hacer, ¿no? Es simplemente cerrar arriba esta línea en los 116.89 y tener otro cierre de confirmación, tener 2 diarios por acá. Esperar a que el 21 se quede por encima del 55 con este cruce plateado y no perderlo. Si lo pierdes es una señal de debilidad potente y eso no sería bueno para Nvidia. Entonces, acá, ojo, porque aparte tienes una vela de tope y tienes una confirmación con este cierre. Esta sería tu segunda confirmación con esta vela, si cierra así tal cual la diaria el día de hoy, o si cierra abajo básicamente de 117.22. Cualquier cierre bajo eso en la diaria te está dando una confirmación de que esto probablemente vaya a seguir para abajo y tu siguiente nivel a intentar no romper son los 113.33. Si rompes los 113, vas a ir probablemente a colgarte a los 110, que es donde está el promedio de la 100 en esta tabla diaria. Y eso también estaría siendo un bajo más alto, si es que lo puede aguantar. Si no lo aguanta, tienes que asegurarte que no rompas los 101. Si rompes los 101 a la baja, tienes tu siguiente confirmación, tu siguiente número que quieres no romper son los 90-60, pero eso ya serían en extremos. Todo puede pasar, pero Nvidia en este momento haciendo altos más bajos y ahora sí que bajos más bajos, pero no acá, es lo que nos está dando un poco de hopium a todos los que creemos que esto va a seguir subiendo en estos momentos. Así que atención con Nvidia, esta semana se me hace bastante crítica para el precio, para la acción de precio, hijos. Vale, alrighty. Now, Palantir, Padrote.
Palantir.
Are they still fucking mega killing it right now?
It seems like it.
Let's see.
So I can call my boy that doesn't care about his fucking shares.
Yeah, looks strong.
Well, how many thousands of percent are you up? Oh,
Wow.
not selling? That's nice.
Holy shit, good for him.
Yeah, nice monthly.
You can do the trick that Elon does and just use his shares for loans and then
Yeah.
never pay taxes.
Yeah, well, all rich people do that. And also with your real estate and anything you have. Ready whenever you are, senor.
All right, so we're going to start on the monthly. Like last monthly close we were looking at, it's a close above the 38.2. Currently it opened within there with a little bit of a back test, tested the 5 EMA, it tested this meme line here, and it sprung right off of it, and now it's above the 38.2 again. If we look at our momentum indicators, HPD, our momentum is starting to flip down a little bit, and I'm guessing volatility as well. Yeah, volatility is also flipping down. That tells you if we get any torps of correction or downward move from here, it's very likely going to be a corrective move, and we should be looking for a higher low before we bounce. Possibly we already got it because we got to move down towards this 5 EMA and this meme line. So very likely this could be that move, that corrective move that we were looking at to happen on this monthly candle. Although, and if we close above this 38.2%, it's going to be very almost certain that was the correction that we were looking for. If we reject this 38.2% at 34.44, then very likely our correction is not over, and we're probably going to come back down, test this median at somewhere around $25.23. We would have to wait until the monthly closes to see where this monthly candle closes to see whether our correction is over or not. Below the 38.2% correction, very likely not over. Above the 38.2% correction, likely over. Our jewel is still pointed up into a light blue cyan's buy signal, and it's breaking into the bullish control zone as well. So it's another pretty good sign. The quarterly is kind of useless for the HBDR because we're above every single range and we're not finding any type of slowdown. So we're not going to get anything from the HBDR right now.
You better get your money back on that HBDR.
Right. But also in the HBDR's defense, we don't have a lot of data here on Palantir, especially for quarterly. Quarterly is the biggest time frame that I use, and we only have data for about 4 years. Monthly is what we just looked at, and the weekly right now. The weekly has several closures above the blue 38.2% zone and is still continuing. Right now, we're brushing up against the 61.8%. If we do get a close above this with volatility expansion, our next target is the 78.6, which is right now at $41.78. Right now, our volatility is not expanding, though. It's pointed towards the downside, while momentum is pointed towards the downside. So that's telling you like any downwards move we get will be a correction. We should be looking for a higher low and then a bounce from there. If we look at our jewel, the jewel is basing off of this pink. All this pink is above the yellow, and it's flipping into a light blue cyan bicycle and breaking into the bearish bullish control zone as well. So we have the pink above the yellow and the light blue above the pink, which is one of the best jewel signals. They just weren't all bunched together when they crossed, so it's not the ultimate signal. But this is still a pretty good signal nonetheless. That does support us having this correction here, not much lower than this, and continuing above from the 61.8% to the 78.6 is what our jewel signal is giving us an idea of. What we need to confirm that is we need volatility to start expanding from here. If volatility starts flipping up from here, then very easily we can go towards that 78.6 target, maybe even the 88.3. And the 88.3 right now is at $46.57. So somewhere between 41.78 and 46.57 is where we would look at if we can get some volatility expansion from here, based off what the jewel signal is telling us. 5 day. 5 day is giving us same thing where we have closed above the blue 38.2%, but we're a little bit higher on the 5 day than the weekly right now. We're on the 78.6 already, and we're still again expanding above it and not finding much of a rejection. As long as it looks like this, is volatility expanding? Volatility is still expanding. So as long as the HPDR looks like that, but volatility is expanding, our next target is the 88.3, and that number is at $42.78. The jewel is also giving us the same thing on the 5 day where we're curving back around, basing off the pink, and they're all entering into the bullish control zone. Two-day is corrected down to the 5 EMA, brushing up against the 78.6. Now it's touching up the 78.6 again. See the volatility. Volatility is still expanding as well. So that tells you that while momentum is pointed up. So that tells you that if it does break above the 78.6, with volatility expanding, our next target is this 88.3, which is at 42.67, very close to our previous target on the other one, 47.70, 41.69, 42.67, very close to each other. Whenever your targets are that close to each other, you can basically lump them up together. While our volatility is expanding, we want to see it close above 78.6. Check the daily. The daily is getting several closures above the blue 38.2 zone and correcting down to it and finding support there. Check our volatility is starting to tick back up. It's entering above the 50, while momentum is breaking back into the bullish control zone after this slight little correction, and it's above the moving average as well. So if we get a close above this 50% right here, which is at $37.54, with the volatility expansion, we should be targeting somewhere between the 61.8 and the 78.6. That gives us a target of around $38.27 all the way up to $39.60. If we get any type of closure above $39.60, while the volatility is expanding, we're very likely, as you see right here, we tested to the which one is this? This is the 88.3. Right now, the 88.3 is sitting at $42.65. That's what we'd be looking at if we did get that closure. And the jewel is also giving us the same signal as the 2-day and 3-day, where the pink is crossing above the yellow and the light blue is entering into the bullish control zone. Let's look at the RSI. on every single time frame, from the highest ones like the quarterly, the monthly, all the way down to the daily. It's looking insanely bullish. Nothing on monthly, weekly, nothing. All right, so 3-day does have confirmed hidden bullish divergence right here on this test down to the 9 EMA. Aside from the hidden bullish divergence, we have this inverse head and shoulders where we have already broken above the neckline, and our target would be the bullish critical zone, which we've already basically hit. That number is at $38.54. Had we hit that on this candle? Let's see the high of this candle. No, we have not hit it yet. We got very close. We got 37.75. Our technical target from this inverse head and shoulders would be somewhere around this bullish critical zone, maybe somewhere slightly higher. So that would be giving us a target somewhere above 38.54. A number we looked at before on our HBDR chart was around $41, if you guys remember. So that would line right up with this inverse head and shoulders on this 3-day RSI. And we have a confirmed hidden bullish divergence right here that's refusing to get kicked out of the bullish control zone. That gives more confluence to that move towards the upside. 2-day has a confirmed drive of bullish divergence. I don't believe there's kind of an inverse head and shoulders, but it's a bastardized inverse head and shoulders with the shoulder right here, shoulder right here. It technically wouldn't be valid since the shoulder is lower than the head. So that would be like a, I don't know if you guys watch Hunchback of Notre Dame, a Quasimodo head and shoulders.
So long. That's fucked up.
All right, we already touched the top of the bullish critical zone. So there's not much you can expect to do from there other than consolidation and sideways, which we're sort of getting some consolidation in these two candles, but now we're getting expansion towards the top. While the inverse head and shoulders is playing out on the RSI. We got some inverse, not really, to be honest. There's another Quasimodo head and shoulders, so we should just ignore this one. The only time frames we're really getting some strong divergences on are like the 5-day, where we have a what do you call it? Hidden bullish shoulders, hidden bullish divergence. The 3-day we have hidden bullish divergence, and we have the inverse head and shoulders. That's what gives us the strongest bias towards the upside right now, towards that $41 target that we got from the HBDR bands. Let's check this one real quick. Palantir on the momentum chart. Maybe we have enough data for some momentum on the quarterly. Nope, we don't have enough data yet. We do have it on the monthly. Monthly will stay up as long as price is above $31.63. We're solidly above that right now. And we're about to close above these previous rejective highs on the, what date was this? February of 2021, which would give us a technical expansion target where we would have to draw a fib as we can get it from there. Somewhere around $59 roughly, give or take. We'd have to close above this 78.6 right now, which is at $32.12. We're pretty safely above $32.12 if you ask me. Check the weekly. Weekly momentum remains up as long as price is above $36.29. 5-day remains up as long as price is above $36.98. 3-day remains up as long as price is above $35.19. 2-day remains up as long as price is above $36.94. And daily remains up as long as price is above $37.16. So literally every single time frame stochastic momentum is lined up towards the upside. Whenever you have all of your higher time frames lined up towards the upside, you're usually going to get a pretty expansive move towards the upside from there.
God damn. All right. Well, we're doing Bitcoin after this. I'll do a shameless plug right after I'm done with this one.
Cool.
All righty. Thank you, boys. Vale. Estamos viendo Palantir en la mensual, porque la trimestral honestamente no hay tantos datos. Esto abrió en septiembre del 2020 y pueden verlo, apenas tenemos populado la 9 y el 21, pero podemos verlo bien arriba que está. Palantir está cotizado en $37.77, tiene 7, estamos viendo la gráfica mensual, tenemos 7 días y 5 horas para el cierre. Lo primero que notas en una gráfica con alta temporalidad es el flip del 9 por encima del 21, lo que nos dice que lleva demasiada fuerza. Ya saben, cada que esto se trepa el 9, esto honestamente no sé si lo podemos considerar, pero esta vez que se trepó del 9 vimos un movimiento bastante choncho y eso fue de acá hasta donde estamos acá de 348%. Nada, absolutamente nada mal. En todas las temporalidades viendo Palantir estamos viendo básicamente esto, que es la fuerza que lleva el precio. Tienes un cruce plateado acá, el 9 está por encima del 21 saludablemente, viene a retestear el 21. A Palantir sí le gusta retestear el 21, que en este momento está en 29, 27, pero está muy encima del 9, para empezar, que está en 33.08. Por lo que pensamos que esto tiene bastante fuerza para seguir empujando. En otras temporalidades, diferentes días, etcétera, hay muchísimas divergencias alcistas en la de 3, en la de 5 y en la de 2 días, de acuerdo a los indicadores de momentum y volatilidad que tiene Farhan. Pero es un poco de lo mismo que están viendo. Podemos ver cómo, bueno, ha populado también el 200, el 100, el 55, 21 y ahorita el mismo 9 en la de 3 días está en 33.99. Pero cuando bajamos un poco más la temporalidad y lo ponemos en un día, podemos ver que todo está tal cual como en las otras. Tuviste este cruce plateado desde acá atrás, el 9 encima del 21 empezó acá en junio del 2024 y desde entonces lleva una fuerza brutal. Palantir tuvo esta desviación rápida que fue retomada una vez más y ahora estamos en altos, no estamos en altos históricos, pero lo voy a poner en la mensual para que lo puedan ver y entiendan esto más sencillamente. Ahí les va. El alto histórico de Palantir está en 45. En este momento estamos cotizando en 37.76. Lo único en todas las temporalidades nos está diciendo, en la diaria, en la de 2 días, en la semanal, en la mensual, no en la trimestral porque no hay tantos datos, es simplemente tienes que cerrar arriba 36, $37 en todas estas temporalidades. Si logras hacer eso, tu siguiente objetivo va a estar por ahí de los $41 y de ahí los $50 que romperían el alto histórico de 44.94. Así es como está Palantir. Tiene demasiada fuerza para seguir a la alza. No hay nada que lo esté alentando. Se ve absolutamente alcista de a madre y creo que hasta que veamos cierres abajo de este punto del 30 y digamos 36 por acá, es más, lo pondría yo acá en el último cierre de esta vela en los 35, 34, siempre y cuando estés arriba de eso, esta madre tiene para seguir empujando a la alza con mucha, mucha, mucha fuerza. Y aquí les voy a poner esta para que lo tengan ahí, para que lo tengan como referencia. Así que para todos ustedes que entraron a Palantir aquí abajo como mi amigo, hijos de puta, felicidades, bien ganado. Qué envidia, bien hecho. Y sigue con fuerza esta cosa, sigue. Interesante. ¿Qué les iba a enseñar? Les iba a decir, por cierto, a todos ustedes, si gustan venir a tradear con nosotros, quiero compartirles el Discord de Elite Trading Academy. Ahí tienen el enlace en pantalla y también lo tienen en la descripción del video. Es sencillo, te metes al enlace, aceptas la invitación, entras justamente a esta pantalla donde pone todo a la izquierda y a la derecha es básicamente lo que estás picándole. Si le picas acá en el Alejandro Shiva, ese es el análisis de Alex, lo puedes ver aquí a la derecha. Si le picas acá, aquí está el de Farhan. Si le picas en general, puedes platicar con todo el chat, acá ponernos a platicar. También tienes una referencia en CriptoLingo para todos ustedes que se estén preguntando qué significa qué. Aquí están. También tenemos todos los P&L cards de toda la comunidad. Se rumora que esta es la comunidad con el Discord más fuerte y profitable de todos, el que más ganancias le saca. Y me da gusto verlo, honestamente. es lo que hemos estado viendo, porque volteo a ver otros de otros cuates y están por ahí del 10, 8%, pero acá tenemos gente haciendo 100, 190%, 66%, 30%, otro casi 30, 90%. Es una verdadera locura. Tenemos acá para que pidan tablas, también tenemos acá para los mods. Y acá, si quieres tradear con nosotros y usar nuestros enlaces para que te den todos esos regalitos y bonos cuando firmes, acá lo tienes. Tenemos dos enlaces. Tenemos uno que usamos para BitGet, que es un exchange que funciona en todo el mundo, menos Estados Unidos, y requiere KYC. Eso quiere decir que requiere tu identificación. Usa este enlace para poder meterte a todas las actividades de la comunidad. Estamos organizando unas cosillas chidas para todos ustedes, básicamente más premios. Y acá tenemos Bluffing. Bluffing funciona en Estados Unidos, en todo el mundo, no requiere KYC, puedes crearte las cantidad de cuentas que quieras para tradear de la manera que te guste. Lo único que el sacrificio de tener la conveniencia de Bluffing es los fees son un poco más caros contra los de BitGet. Y acá también tenemos TradingView, que es la herramienta que usamos para enseñarles todas las tablas que estamos usando. Si lo quieren, esto les da 15% de descuento. Tenemos noticias, tenemos preguntas. Ven a decir hola, aquí tienes el chat, el Discord de Elite Trading Academy, es absolutamente gratis, únete de una vez, y si no, me las vas a pagar, güey, o sea, alrighty, boys. Oh, good for you, Alex, good for you. Let's see. Bitcoin, basically.
I got that first.
Let me take a. That was still sharing. I'm drinking water, people. Very good water.
God damn! Hang on, we got to bring in the ad just from Alex.
There
you go.
Always have one on me now.
Satisfying that thirst. And by the way, it's real fucking water. It's none of that purified fucking bullshit water. So
no, genuinely, yeah, no, it's smooth. Like it's real good, the water I drink, and this is actually genuinely good. And I like how it's alkaline too.
Look at far. Oh, dude, you love that pink lemonade.
Shit.
You love that pink lemonade.
Yeah, it tastes really. It has that nice lemon flavor to it.
I know. It's all natural. It's all natural. Thank you for the commercial, boys. I appreciate you. Así que eso. Así que llévense su water, people, cabrones. Vean cómo lo disfrutan estos güeyes. Y no es como que los tengo amarrados en un calabozo. Vamos a darle a la tabla de Bitcoin.
Let's go to the monthly on Bitcoin. The monthly looks quite beautiful, if I don't say so myself. I think we'll do CME first.
Okay.
The CME looks a little bit better than spot. CME looks even more beautiful. So during this move down, where we were initially when this rally started in October, we were at about like $27, I want to say. As that rally started and we expanded above the blue 38.2 zone, we just continued going up until we made our new all-time highs at $73,000. From there, we started going sideways a little bit. We ended up breaking back into the blue 38.2 zone. And then last month in August, we ended up testing somewhere close to the bottom. We didn't quite get to the bottom, but we went to low 49,000. This month, we tested down. We corrected towards the bottom of the blue 38.2 zone. We didn't break this previous wick low. We actually went even below the 38.2 zone. We went down to the 50% zone. But now we're getting not only a bounce, but we're getting a strong spring off of there, and we're broken well back into the blue 38.2% zone, while our volatility is starting to tick back up, and our momentum is about to find a bottom. It's literally just about to break into the edge of the bearish control zone. From there, we should expect it to see it flip back up, as long as we're closing above this blue 38.2 zone. That will give us a statistical probability of hitting the median. Right now, the median is sitting at $77,700. And if we can get above that and close above that for a monthly, our next target is the top 38.2 zone, and that number is currently sitting at $97,000. So it does seem like there's sort of a regime change in price structure right now, to where we're bouncing from areas that previously would not have really held, like on the 38.2 zone, and we're expanding well above them. And whenever you take this 38.2, subtract 100 from it, that gives you a 61.8% chance of continuation if you close above this number. With your first target being 77.7 and your second target being 97,000. Let's check the Look at the quarterly. There's not that much data on the quarterly, but we are about to get the same thing on the quarterly. We're about to close above the blue 38.2 zone, and then from there we should expect to move up to somewhere around the 61.8, if not the 78.6. The 61.8 right now is at about 77,800, basically. Yep, 77,831, and 78.6 is currently at just under $100,000 at 99. No, it's actually at 100,000 exactly. 100,024. Last time we closed above the 38.2 zone on the quarterly was right over here in October of 2020, when price went from 10,000 all the way up to upper 20s, maybe $30,000, just not quite 30. It was 29,700, so just 300 below 30. And then we ended up going all the way from there to the 100% zone, this red line over here. So right now we're about to get our first close above the blue 38.2% zone since October of 2020. We didn't even get that in October of 2023, whenever we ended up breaking from the high 20s into the 40s. We're getting a move like on the HPDR that we didn't even get then. The last time we got this move is when Bitcoin did how much of an X move?
More importantly, that's when Israel kills Arabs. So whenever they're killing a lot of Arabs and now they're bombing the shit out of Lebanon, seems like that's the type of move we're waiting for. There you go. Thanks, Israel.
465% up on our coins. And we're getting the same exact setup as we did back there when Bitcoin went 465% up. There's only so many things that have to line up for before you say, okay, there's a pattern here. We're breaking in on quarterly HPDR momentum into the bullish control zone. We're breaking above the 50, and on the volatility, we're starting to tick up as well. So it's telling us that we're about to get a very significant move towards the upside based off from the quarterly. And that would definitely line up with us closing above this 38.2 zone and going somewhere around 77.8 to maybe $100,000. That glorified number everybody's been looking for since the inception of Bitcoin for $100,000 coin. The weekly. On the weekly, we are healthily above the median. The median is at 61,715. And we're still getting some rejection at this meme line right here, but we're not getting that much of a pushback. This is still an expansive candle. And while we're above this median, we have a 61.8% chance of going up to this 38.2%, which right now this number is sitting at $70,450. 70,447, but I'm rounding it 3 up to 50. That's a little bit easier. And it's just below this meme line that I have drawn right here from this previous consolidation zone. So very likely we go a little bit of that above that and tap this meme line. But we only have statistical probabilities of hitting this area. We don't know if we're going to close above this area or not. But what gives us more bias is that hitting this area would break this weekly downtrend. This would give us a higher high on the weekly, and it would break this downtrend. And then from there, our trend would then again be towards the upside. So that would support us going towards higher than these targets and somewhere above to this 50%, around 76,000, where we had that 77 number from our monthly chart before. Our momentum is breaking into the positive territory now on the weekly, while volatility is starting to tick up as well. And the jewel is curving over from a dark blue sell to a white buy. And on the next monthly open, or next weekly open, this should be flipped into a light blue cyan buy signal from this white neutral signal. The 5-day. The 5-day looks very strong. The 5-day has confirmed above the median and is getting expansion from that close above over the median. And now it's about to it's getting some resistance here, just like the previous time frame at this meme line. But as soon as it gets through this meme line, it should very likely, because of how our volatility's momentum is looking, and volatility is moving average is still pointed up, this needs to start flipping around, like turning this direction in the same direction as the moving average, because moving average is still pointed up. That would support volatility expansion on this move. Then we would very likely break this meme line and go towards this top meme line right here, somewhere between this line and the 50%, which is right now at 71,800 to around 71,897. Still right next to each other, very close to each other. And that's where we would expect our next little bit of Maybe a little bit of consolidation this is a 5-day candle, so maybe one candle, but I don't expect much consolidation in this area, and I expect it to blast right through upwards towards that 77,000 target if we do get to that scenario. 3-day. 3-day right now, same thing, where we've closed above the median. This is our second 3-day candle above the median. We're finding some resistance at this line here, but overall, we still have statistical probability of hitting this 38.2%, which is at 67,600. And above that, we very likely hit a 50% chance of hitting this meme line here at 70,825. Our volatility is pointed up right now, and alongside momentum, so that is telling us that this move is going to be the actual move and not a correction. And we shouldn't be looking for any liquidity grabs or lower highs. We should be looking for an actual expansive move towards the upside. And then our jewel on 3-day as well is flipping around, and it's giving us this light blue cyan buy signal as well. On the 2-day, the last close, we brushed up against this top 38.2% zone, but we didn't close above it. But at the same time, we got a fresh silver cross right here, when the 21 did cross above the 55, and the 9 crossed above all of them as well. So all of our moving averages are bunched up together when we got our silver cross. This is generally a pretty powerful form of a silver cross. Whenever they're all together, they all bunch up together. So from here, if we do get a close above this 38.2% zone, ideally this 50% area right here at 64,950, we should be looking for an expansive move up towards the $70,000 zone, somewhere around like 70,500-ish, so possibly all the way up to $77,000 in the next 2 or 3 weeks from that confirmation close, because we haven't had a fresh silver cross on this chart since, let's go back. This is the last time we had it. We're right here in October of 2023, when price went up from $27,000 all the way up to the upper 40s before any type of real correction. And we're getting that exact same setup here currently as we did back in October when price was at $27,000. There was a tweet that I saw earlier in the morning today, and I just had to concur with it. And it said something along the lines of, "Good morning, bears suck dick."
Right now they are.
We're brushing up against the same area that we rejected last week and made this top candle on Friday. But now we're pushing past it at the 61.8% at 64,000. If we do get a close above this candle's rejection high, very likely, very, very likely, we're going to expand up towards this top meme line right here, somewhere around $70,000. Very likely. We would have like a high 60% chance of that happening to go up towards this candle, as long as we close above this candle right here, this candle's projective high. And that would also invalidate the downtrend, and that would put us in a new uptrend, and it would give us signal regime change from this previous months of just consolidation and down. We'd be in a new shift in the market. Right now, the jeweled pink is crossing above the yellow. Light blue cyan buy is above everything else. It's just looking, it's looking good, bros. It's looking good. It's the opposite if it's not looking good, bros. Let's go to the momentum chart. There's one thing we got to look over. And this comes from the 5-day. This setup is still valid, where every single time the volatility drops below the 15%, but then it expands from the 15%, the direction that stochastic momentum is pointed towards is you have an 85% chance of a 30 to 35% move from that direction. So momentum is already expanding from here, from this candle right here. So this candle closure is at 60,182. So we take our measurement tool from there. $60,182, bring us up 30%.
77 again. 78.
Yep, 30% move brings us up to 78,500, right next to that 78,000 number. If we take the average move, 35%, that brings us up to $80,000 or $81,000. And this setup is back tested towards the origin, like literally the inception of Bitcoin back in 2009, and it has an 85% hit rate. It's played out, I want to say, like 13 or 14 times with an 85% hit rate, which is pretty good odds, if you're gonna ask me.
Fuck. Yeah.
Check the weekly. The weekly is firing off the same exact setup. Volatility at 0 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. The longer volatility is at 0, the harder it's going to expand when it actually does expand. Right now, we have confirmed volatility expansion, and momentum is up as long as we're above 61, 252. So we have the same setup towards the upside. I don't have the stats in front of me for the weekly, but I do know it's about 85% hit rate, and the average move is somewhere around 35 to 40%. But don't quote me on that. It's in between those two numbers. For the 5-day, I know the stats on the back of my hand, because the 5-day one is set up I use all the time. But the weekly one rarely ever fires off. Last time I fired off was in January of 2024, where we went from $40,000 all the way up to $73,000. So we're getting that same setup again from $57,000. Where are we going to get to next time? 100K, 80K? We'll see.
At least 80K.
And we're getting the exact same setup on the 5-day and the weekly. And if we check Tether dominance, at under 4.71% will turn down on the monthly. This number, after this moves up, we're gonna be nearing the edge of the bearish control zone. So once we're tapping the edge of the bearish control zone, this number is going to move up significantly. Very likely it's going to be above price. And if we see that, that's going to give us our confirmation that Tether dominance is bearish on the monthly, and we're very likely going to stay within the bearish control zone. But until then, we have to respect the fact that this pivot still is below price action. So monthly momentum still is technically up on Tether dominance. But when you go down in the time frame, this is when that story changes. You go down to the weekly, you have a clear rejection of the bullish control zone, and you have it flipping down, and the pivot is 5.68%. Right now, we're healthily below that. Very likely this flips down. 5-day, we're getting a rejection of the bullish control zone. The pivot is even higher at 5.93%. This is very likely going to flip down. 3-day, same thing on the 3-day. The pivot is even higher on this one. It's at 6.15%, and it's a rejection of the bullish control zone as well. Every one of these time frames, from the high ones to the low ones, are rejecting the bullish control zone, and the pivots are significantly above price action. 2-day pivot is much higher than price, rejection of the bullish control zone. So you're seeing basically the opposite that you're seeing on Bitcoin as Tether dominance. And the pivot right now is we are above it on the daily at 5.41%. We do have almost 8 hours to go. So we'll see where this closes. If this does close over 5.41%, then we could expect a little bit of pity bounce from here. But we are expecting these two to silver cross to the downside very soon. As long as price is below 5.65%, these two are going to silver cross, and then that would make a perfect rejection point for a lower high before we end up rolling over even further. There's one more thing I wanted to show you is the bearish divergence on Tether dominance. Very likely that was confirmed. Yep, we have 3 drives of confirmed bearish divergence on Tether dominance, and we've been kicked out of the bullish control zone, as well as this Jules VMP switching over from a white to a dark blue sell signal. So we've already basically hit the easy target from this divergence, which is 21 EMA. Our next target is going to be this middle zone of the RSI, and that sits at $5.01%.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of close below that on a weekly, is that in line up with our? It's pretty close to our 200 SMA, but it's not exactly. But if we get any type of close below that 5.01%, we're entering the bearish control zone. Statistically, we're going to enter the bearish control zone, and that number is at 3.4%. That is a very significant drop on Tether dominance. Like before, we were looking at the quarterly hidden bullish divergence, giving us a pretty significant move of, I believe, 27% towards the upside. This divergence, if it does play out, continues to play out, and we close below this middle 5.01%, we're going to get a move to 3.4%, which would be, I believe, just as severe towards the downside, even more. That's bringing Tether down like 37%.
Damn.
That's crazy. You would expect at least a 37% move towards the upside on Bitcoin in the opposite direction. Let's see if our monthlies are still here. quarterly divergence. If the quarterly bullish divergence is still here, we would have to close below 5.41% on the quarterly, and we would invalidate that hidden bullish divergence on the quarterly. We are so close. We were
You
like
mean 4.2%?
No, the high, which is 5.41%.
I gotcha. Okay.
We're literally 0.04% away from invalidating this hidden bullish divergence. When earlier in the quarter we were this high and it was basically confirmed. Crazy how things can change in crypto.
So fast.
And now we're literally just inches away from invalidating this hidden bullish divergence and putting in. I want to say there's probably some on the flip side there might be some divergence showing up on Bitcoin. I guess this one is still valid. These 3 drives of hidden bullish divergence on Bitcoin are still valid. We don't have a local bottom yet. So I guess that one is still valid. It's not a new one, though. This one is new. This one is fresh. This drive of bullish divergence that we called out on Friday is fresh right now on Bitcoin, which caught us at the 55 EMA. We are at the easy target right now at the middle, which is 63,198. Our next target from there is a number we've been looking at for basically since the beginning of this Bitcoin talk, 80,323, which is our next target to enter the bullish control zone. So it seems like 77 to 80,000 is going to be where we get some short-term consolidation after this 5-day setup actually does fire off and volatility enters the upper 70 to 80% area. I'm guessing we're going to be somewhere around, let's say 75 to maybe $81,000, give or take.
See, it does seem like it. It seems like it's got a lot of legs to go do it. Alex, you want to share yours, or are we?
Yeah, no, I wanted just to basically fine hit everything, but I just want to mention one thing. With Bitcoin, we're getting this chop here, and it's really on the daily evident because of the level we're at. I think bulls will gain a lot of control. And on Friday, this was something I mentioned. On Friday, I became, quite bullish after the first and second rejection of this didn't really lead anywhere. And with everything statistically pointing up now, and also the daily has a silver cross as well. And the 2-day we would just need, price to keep consolidating in a bullish manner, or if not going up, and that'll cause a 21 to cross 55, while also getting supported by the 9. Overall, I think Bitcoin's looking good. We just still have to be cautious about this zone. Personally, I'm still flat. I'm just waiting for this. I'm waiting for the 61.3 to 60,800 zone. I think if price comes down to there, I think that'll be an opportunity. Why I think that is simply just because it will backtest essentially this massive support range that we really haven't been able to hold. And when we do hold above, it leads to expansion moves. With these 2 examples here and here, also here. But also in the latest chop, 3 times now, we've essentially reclaimed the daily EMA 100, but we've been unable to essentially hold it. So ideally, this is the, 1, 2, this is the first one, the second one. This will be the third one here, kind of in this chop. Ideally, what we want is this to actually hold. And that's what I'm going to be watching for because, with the weekly closing back above the 9, we now want this to also get back tested and proven to us that it's support. And I'm getting a lot of confluence of this zone. So any pullbacks there, I'm a buyer potentially. I just need to see a nice reaction there. Bitcoin overall, though, is looking good. And it's in this bullish consolidation matter while everyone is, really bearish. We talked about the statistics in the halving years where in September's, we every single time have dumped quite aggressively actually in the beginning of September. But towards the end of September, that's where actually we get a nice bounce going into October. So ideally, that's something I'll be watching closely, especially with the weekly reclaiming the 9 now. Ideally, now we just want this to hold. Same thing that we saw on the daily. It's kind of like on the weekly as well. Anytime we reclaim the weekly 9, we've kind of just been unable to hold it. So I'll be looking at this spot as an opportunity, you know, and that's kind of what I'm just waiting for personally. Just letting price come to me, not really chasing. And then also just to tie in with CME, you know, my next target on here is 66.5. You know, that lines up nicely with Bitcoin potentially going, because there's a premium on CME. If CME can go to 66.5, then that also probably means that price is well above 65K, maybe 65.5, 65.8. Ideally, then we've broken the uptrend. Downtrend on Bitcoin, something we've been following pretty closely. You know, we are still in a downtrend, but this consolidation in a bullish manner, while things are slowly flipping up to bullish, while everyone's slowly going more bearish, is a cause of concern to me, because that's kind of like the recipe for any massive consolidation we've seen on Bitcoin, especially in October. And so that's why I'm watching really closely. Ideally, we just really want price to prove to us that it is actually bullish and reclaiming levels. Perfectly fine if it rejects here. I'll just be, you know, watching these zones as an opportunity to potentially get positioned. And then, you know, if we do reject the SMA 200, I'm sure a lot of people are getting positioned around there. So ideally, you know, we come down, hit this, retest, and then that'll give us the fuel to actually break out. So yeah, that's kind of all I'm watching for on Bitcoin as of right now. Just flat and waiting, because you know, it feels dirty to long this right now, right at the resistance. What I could do now is, you know, if we actually start reclaiming this SMA 200, then for me this could be an opportunity zone. As long as it holds above, then that's a clear invalidation. But you know, if it doesn't, then I'll be looking at that 61.3 to 60,800 reaction to potentially get positioned in long. So that's really all I have on Bitcoin. Just waiting, watching. I think patience will be the better move overall. And yeah, it's nice to see things slowly turning up. Because in consolidation, this just moves the moving averages up. That's how we get silver crosses to happen. If you know what you're to watch, then you know you can catch something before the expansion or even downside move. So I'm bullish on Bitcoin too as well. I'm bearish on it if we start losing the daily EMA 100. You know, then that'll just basically mean we've deviated the 9 on the weekly. That's always been just a dumping point as well. If we start losing that again, then I'm back to looking for shorts. But right now, it feels dirty to give shorts and it feels dirty to long. So sometimes in that scenario, it's just better to wait for an easy setup.
Perfecto. Thank you. Coinbase and then Southern Company, which is SO.
Okay, I can do Coinbase.
Perfect. Let me just share my Bitcoin chart with everyone. How are you guys liking your Bitcoin? Good. All right. Did you play with your Bitcoin? You had fun with it? Okay, awesome. I imagine just Donald Trump getting home and his kids are playing with Bitcoin and he's just like, hey, are you enjoying your bit? And he's just like completely checked out from his family. But he still has to go through the motions. That's where I picture that Donald Trump.
Did you hear what Kamala Harris said over this weekend about how she's going to be the president for digital assets?
Thanks.
Well,
yeah, we believe that.
But no, it's true. They both will. Like, they're digitizing everything. They're making less incentives for you to go to a store. They want you to buy everything online. They're going to give, and the reason, okay, so quickly, the reason why they're doing this, just so you see my beautiful face, the reason why they're digitizing everything, and the biggest proof is like what they're doing online. They're pushing everything so that instead of going to the store, you can just order everything online. And the reason why they're pushing the CBDC idea, so they turn out and do something else within the crypto space or digital assets, if you will, which is what the lingo that they're using, is because what they want to do is they want to enter a new period of banking, and they're copying China. And what China does whenever they're working on inflating a sector, they'll inflate it instead of giving money to that sector. Like we just gave Nvidia like $7 billion to do chips in the United States, right? Instead, what they do is they can lower interest rates specifically for that sector. They can incentivize it in different ways, but that way they don't have to create new money for new sectors. And they can do it specific for whatever it is, like, which is what everyone's been saying in the past. Like, if you're a little conspiracy, they want you to spend your money in the stores that they want them to tell you that you can spend your money. Because at the end of the day, the owner of the stores are the ones paying them. So your money's guided that way. And this is the way that they're going to do it. So all of these candidates are in favor of this, because this is what they're going to use against us. So they can keep full control of your money, full control of inflation. They're going to tell you this is the way to go. The reason why we got inflation is because we printed so much money, it went everywhere, but now we can target it into certain places, and that's not going to create inflation. That's just going to create asset or sector inflation, which could be beneficial for everyone. That's the fucking story that they're going to.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell people. Like, instead of printing stimulus checks and doing things, we can just send it immediately digitized, where it's very convenient. So ideally, yeah, it's all centered around control. I agree with you on that aspect. And ideally, Kamala doesn't get her grubby paws in crypto, which she will, obviously. But
yeah, absolutely.
You hear, I think her campaign is accepting donations on Coinbase. Yet under her administration, Coinbase has just been, rimmed by the courts, SEC. It's convenient. I think they actually have a lawsuit about Coinbase being unable to, host or facilitate buys with crypto. Yet she's using their platform. So it's just funny because it's the backward logic behind it all.
Well, one day, you kids, young ones everywhere, will understand that none of what they say matters. None. Just look at what they're doing. That's all that matters at the end of the day. Just like in a relationship, your wife, you love her to death. You absolutely love this woman, and she tells you she loves you so much, and you're her everything. And you start getting home, and she's banging 7 black guys at the same time. And then you're like, babe, I thought you told me that you love me. And she tells you, no, I love you. You're the most important thing to me in the world. I'll never do this again. But the next night you find her with 4 black guys, the next night with 7, the next night with 12. Does she love you, or is she just telling you that she loves you?
She's just
right?
telling you. Yeah,
that's right. And this is what politics are, baby. This is what politics are. You finding out your wife with 7 other black guys. That's what it is. And you going like, wait, I thought you loved me. That's just how it works. Okay, now we can get to Bitcoin.
Right. Yes, Bitcoin.
Yes, exactly. Ok, vale. Estamos viendo Bitcoin, analizando Bitcoin en diferentes temporalidades y de acuerdo a todos los indicadores que tiene Farhan de momentum y volatilidad, estamos en una muy buena zona, sobre todo recuperando esta zona. Pudiste ver que creaste este bajo, este alto más bajo que este, pero en este momento creaste un bajo más alto y la esperanza de todo el mundo es de que este alto que llegó a 64,810 pueda romper los 65,160. Cuando volteas a ver momentum, volatilidad en altas temporalidades, ya sea de un mes, trimestral, etcétera, sobre todo la mensual, nos pone en una misma situación, en una situación idéntica a la de octubre en el 2023. Y ese octubre, ven lo rápido que lo puedes encontrar, es cuando la 9 se fue encima del 21 por primera vez en la tabla mensual de Bitcoin desde que la perdió acá, que fue el principio del mercado bajista por ahí del 2022. Así que estando por encima, te dice que muy bien. Veniste y te rechazó literalmente la 9 en esta caída, que está en 58,431 y empezó a rebotar hacia arriba. Ahora, en los indicadores de Farhan, en la zona azul, estamos literalmente en la parte de en medio de la zona azul, rebotando hacia arriba de la media, lo que nos pone en una excelente posición. El siguiente objetivo de esto es bastante sencillo. Queremos tener un cierre arriba de 65,000, digamos 200, y una vez que tienes eso, el siguiente objetivo está por acá en casi los 67,000. De ahí, siguiente objetivo son 70,000. Que es básicamente esta vela, y de ahí tu siguiente objetivo son 74,500 a romper altos nuevos. Pero de acuerdo a las estadísticas y todo lo que hemos visto en altas temporalidades, de acuerdo a cómo reacciona el precio, en dónde pasó y qué, que de nuevo, esto es lo que estamos experimentando en este momento, una vez más, el 9 por encima del 21, el recruce de esto, que es lo que están viendo acá, esta es su temporalidad semanal. Esto nos podría llevar un movimiento de 30% a la alza que nos llevaría por ahí de los $80,000, entre 77 y $82,000. Obviamente hay objetivos por ahí de los 100,000, pero lo más realista es que poco a poco y paso a paso vayamos uno por uno. Por ejemplo, en la diaria, volteas a ver Bitcoin acá. ¿Qué es lo que estás viendo? Que el 9 se va encima del 21 demostrando fuerza. Ahí viene el 55 y vamos a cruzar el 55. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que no quieres? No quieres perder el 100, que está en los 60,871. Una vez que el precio, porque sobre todo cuando tenemos este tipo de cruces, lo que quieres es aprovechar una oportunidad de entrada, porque mucha gente ahorita estamos viendo esto y estamos en limbo. Esto es limbo. Esto aquí no hay un trade para nada. No quieres hacer un corto, porque si haces un corto te va a comer, pero absolutamente destruir. Pero lo que estás buscando es la probabilidad de que el precio venga a retestear en la diaria el promedio de las 9. Si vienes a retestear el promedio de las 9, hay un gran chance de que vengas y tengas un rebote a la alza. Y de ahí puedas seguir. Ahí es donde empezarías tu primera mordida en esto. Sobre todo cuando volteamos a ver la dominancia de Tether, podemos ver cómo no pudimos crear un alto más alto que este. Empezamos a bajar y ahora estás a punto de crear un bajo más bajo que el pasado. El bajo más bajo que el pasado se activa simplemente rompiendo el 5.26% a la baja, pero también voltea a ver la diaria. 9 cruza bajo el 21, el 55, el 9 ya está por abajo del 55 y el precio en este momento está recargado literalmente en el promedio de los 100, el EMA 100. Lo que nos dice que probablemente lo vaya a perder. Esta va a ser la zona crítica. Una vez que lo pierdas, vas a tener un movimiento posible de alrededor de 30% a la baja y eso te pondría o pondría la dominancia de Tether en... Un segundo. En estos niveles, por ahí del 3.81%, que va justo con el mínimo de acá. Perdón que esté poniendo esto, que va justo con este mínimo. Así que, y si esto llega a pasar, Bitcoin va a tener un movimiento similar del otro lado. Y no importa en qué temporalidad lo veas, es básicamente lo mismo. Estás viendo en la semanal cómo perdiste la 9, veniste y te rechazó junto con el 25 y veniste ahorita en el 21 y te ayudó a volver a pompear. Pero si también pierdes el 21, que está por ahí, de donde está el promedio de la 100, en la diaria, es donde deberías de empezar a preocuparte bastante. Bueno, si es que eres bajista en Bitcoin, pero si eres alcista, esto empieza a pintar bastante bien. Es así de sencillo. Yo diría, no les quiero complicar más que entre sí y mí, que no. Es lo que estamos viendo en todo esto. Entonces, siguiente objetivo, simplemente romper este alto en los 65,200, digamos, después de ahí los 65,800, irte a buscar estos nuevos altos, alto por alto, casi, casi, y con paciencia, y asegúrate que cada que venga el precio a la 9, si es que eres alcista y estás metiéndole, lo veas como una oportunidad para comprar en vez de cualquier otra cosa. All righty. That is the Bitcoin. Alrighty, let's go into Coinbase.
Okay, so yeah, Coinbase is looking interesting. This is something we've been talking about. Makes sense because this 187 zone was pretty big, especially in the range break. That's kind of what exacerbated this whole move down. It's welcoming to see the 9 starting to get reclaimed, especially since Coinbase has just been looking so terrible. With Nvidia kind of being, on the edge of, it could break down, but also bulls need to start stepping in. It's welcoming to see some structure form on Coinbase because you're right. We want Nvidia, we wanted Coinbase, these things to look good, so that way Bitcoin ultimately can break out essentially. So Coinbase right now is now just kind of chopping. It's reclaimed the 9, but it's also rejecting the 21. We're just kind of chopping within here. Ideally, bulls just want to hold the 9. If we go to a lower time frame, like not a 5 hour, prefer a 4. A 4 hour, we're seeing the cross happen, on the lower time frame. So even if Coinbase comes back down to like the 167 range, ideally, we get a bounce from there. We don't break this low. We just start slowly forming structure for actually a move up to the zone. I do think that we could easily retest this zone. We haven't. And conveniently for us, the 4 hour EMA 100 is lining up perfectly around there. And it will get to this over time. Well, also we're getting that, momentum with BBWP expanding from extremes, and this is a 4 hour. But for us, ideally, we can gauge it if it ideally holds the 9, especially when we get this cross happening now with the 9 flipping the 21. Then for me, it kind of gives me more confidence of this $180 zone getting tapped. And so what we want to see on the daily then is just, the 9 to just keep holding. It's okay. Rejecting the 21 makes sense. It's a big point in this chart, in this whole downtrend as well. But ideally we want to get above it. And then, the next zone is that EMA 34, which, lines up with that $180 zone, to potentially even a wick to 186.88. I do think we'll get some kind of rejection here though, especially the first tap. And then we're on higher low wash to see if we can actually form some structure, or if we just reject this and this is a bearish retest, very much like what we're waiting on to see with Nvidia. Let me see here. With Coinbase, though, the reason why I'm saying it looks so much worse than Bitcoin is for 2 reasons. We've lost the monthly 9 officially. So any rallies into this $180 zone as well will be watched as resistance. We want to see the reaction here. If Coinbase can actually reclaim this within the week, then to me this will actually start looking really good, and then it'll start making me feel better about being bullish on Bitcoin, because with Coinbase looking as bad, it'd be welcoming to see it form, just at least reclaim a massive level that it likes to hold in strong uptrends. After losing it, one closure, reclaiming it, trapping all those shorts here, this could give us, momentum at least to test the 200s again, in my opinion. And then if we reclaim that, we have that $230 zone. So I'm gonna actually be watching real closely the reaction at this 187, because that's three things actually: the 4-hour EMA 100, that daily, what was it? Yeah, that daily 34 right around there. And then also, the weekly, the weekly 9 as well is right around there on Coinbase. So, we're getting a lot of confluence of this zone being a big zone for bulls and bears. After the breakdown, we have to then look at this as resistance. And we just need price to prove that to us with the reaction. And the quarterly is coming up, and, not a lot of data with this 9, but ideally, yeah, we just want to get a bounce around here, because if the quarterly does lose the 9, it's just more ticks for bears on why they have more control overall with Coinbase. And then the other reason why, Coinbase was looking a lot more worse than Bitcoin is we had this fresh cross, the 9, and the 21. We throw the 55, interested to see. It hasn't sold across to the downside. But we also lost the weekly EMA 100. A big point that, is kind of we don't have a lot of data with this chart, with, the EMA on the quarterly, the EMA 9, and then the 100. But overall, I mean, as what we have for data, it has been a big point in big bounces for Coinbase. And so, it just gives me, confidence of ideally we just hold above it. That can give us momentum to test the 9. But losing it wasn't a good sign. It is nice to see it's reclaimed it though. So, we slowly are starting to see Coinbase starting to look better. The $180 zone though will be the big test for me, whether this is actually bullish or bearish. Because getting back above there will flip a lot of things and reclaim a lot of things, in my opinion. And then we have to look at this next high at 210, which was the last lower high here. Break that, then there's a daily trend shift, structures flipping. We've reclaimed EMA 100. We reclaimed the EMA 100 at that point on the daily, while also the monthly and the 9. Essentially the weekly 21 gets reclaimed as well with that scenario. And then, reclaiming the monthly 9 will be a huge point, because as history has shown us, it's just been a big opportunity zone for Coinbase this whole rally. And, I know some people like watching the 5. So if we replace it with the EMA 5, we can see that that's lining up right around 192, two monthly closures below it. So we really have to see the reaction around this, 187 to even maybe 192 on a wick basis. But Yeah, I think that, we easily could bounce when Coinbase, especially like a chart like this, is getting potentially supported by a bullish Bitcoin, and we've just kind of been going down only with shallow little pumps. It makes sense that, we easily could squeeze up here and, actually smoke some late shorts, especially with what we see on BBWP across the board. With it hitting extremes on the 4-hour, the daily fully reset and it's expanding. It's now above 15%. I just ideally want this daily EMA9 to hold. But yeah, I mean, it'll be welcoming to see if Coinbase can flip bullish, maybe Nvidia doesn't break down and actually just trap shorts. Because, to me, it's like a picture perfect on Nvidia. Bearish retest, possible head and shoulders. Usually those just picture perfect don't end up being like, they don't play out like as easy as it tends to look like it's going to. You're muted, Alejandro.
Wow. Fuck me, right? Absolutely Diddy my ass at this point. Yeah. What I'm saying is, you're muted too.
There you go.
Diddy got us. It's the Diddy strap.
Without the baby oil.
What was I going to say? Yeah. The more people can see a pattern, like the easier it's for people to see it, the less it'll play out because everyone's seeing it, which is what I still love about the Mexican peso. Doesn't matter how many times I'll tell people that that's telling us that we're fucked. People are like, no, bro. I'm like, all right, that still works. Let's get it.
No one's talking about it. No, I mean, just big closures across the board. So it is welcoming at least to see Coinbase trying to, especially on that weekly close, reclaiming the EMA 100, because that just wasn't a good sign at all. And we know just overall the levels that it needs to reclaim like that monthly will be huge. So it's nice that we don't have to wait 15, 20 days. It's all coming in, a week.
Yeah, I like this about Coinbase, and could be just a stupid coincidence, right? But every time you have a deviation from this trend line that goes up, every time the price fucking goes mentally up. Even if it loses it a little bit, it goes up, and it's doing it again, right?
Interesting.
So
that's interesting. Maybe that lines up with what we see with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin looks good, but Coinbase still looks like it does. It just doesn't look good to me yet, but it could be.
Because if you're just looking at this, it looks terrible. It looks like it was topped and now forming a new, starting to form a new bottom. And like you look at all the averages are right here. It seems like it's going to reject, but it'd be like you're saying, it'd be too easy.
Yeah.
Either way, I'll pass this and Ether for you, Alex.
Which one?
Ethereum.
Oh, okay, cool.
The most popular shitcoin in the world.
Oh yeah.
20K according to George.
Oh, dude. He's probably right now he's like $895 billion per coin at this point. Okay, let us go. Tenemos acá Coinbase para todos ustedes. Lo tengo en temporalidad semanal, pero los voy a llevar rápidamente a la trimestral, aunque no haya tantos datos para enseñarles varias cosillas. Esto es toda la tabla de Coinbase, básicamente. Ha estado entrando en este wedge desde octubre del 2021. Vamos a aprender nuestros promedios para que veamos lo interesante. Ok, acá podemos ver que literalmente estamos por abajo del 21. Tiene 7 días y 4 horas, del 9, perdón, para cerrar. Queremos cerrar definitivamente esta vela arriba del 171.42 en la trimestral. Eso nos pondría en una excelente situación porque cada que estamos por encima de esto, obviamente nos indica que es bastante alcista el precio comparado con estando abajo. Si volteamos a ver la mensual, podemos darnos cuenta de varias cosas. Tal cual como Bitcoin, hemos creado altos más bajos, sobre todo comparados del principio en el 2022 que tocó Coinbase, pero en este momento estamos siendo apoyados por el promedio de las 21 que está acá, que fue lo mismo que hizo literalmente en diciembre, noviembre, antes de todo lo de octubre. Bueno, primero pasó lo de octubre del 2023 y una vez que ya subió potentemente fue cuando estuvimos encima del 21, hemos retomado el 21, simplemente tuvimos una desviación acá en el precio. Coinbase está cotizando en $170 en este momento, lo que lo pone en una situación bastante interesante para todos los que siguen cripto, porque si estamos volteando a ver cripto y se ve tan alcista, ¿por qué Coinbase todavía no reacciona, no? O puede que haya un delta más grande en esto, veremos qué es exactamente lo que pasa. Cuando volteamos a ver la semanal, nos pinta una fotografía interesante, porque acá abajo tienes el promedio de las 100. ¿Quieres no perder el promedio de las 100? Yo creo que esta es la línea en la arena que todos debemos de poner atención, los 165.57. No quieres perder esto para nada. Puedes ver que el 9 se fue abajo el 21, señalando debilidad, y tuviste este dompazo que literalmente fue de 30%, 31% básicamente de esta vela acá, una vez que el 9 cruzó abajo del 21. Y ahorita queremos aguantar esto. Probablemente y normalmente lo que pasa con esto es que va el precio a buscar, a intentar ir a buscar romper o ser rechazado por el promedio de las 9. En la semanal está en 183. De nuevo, el Coinbase está cotizando en este momento en 170.52. Si nos vamos a la diaria, agrega confluencia todo esto. Estás por encima de la 9. Está intentando, bueno, te está rechazando hasta ahorita justamente el promedio de las 21. Tienes que asegurarte que Coinbase pueda romper los 175.34, que fue este alto, para empezar a pensar, ok, vamos a darnos una vuelta por acá. Pero toda esta zona donde están los 100, entre los 200 a los 188, es una zona muy importante para el precio. Quieren asegurarte que la puedas romper e irte a buscar este mínimo, este alto, que fue en los 211.26. Entonces, yo diría, y diríamos todos nosotros, que donde no queremos perder, que también hay confluencia con el promedio de la 100 en la semanal, es justamente esta zona de los 165. Si pierdes la zona de los 165, esto empieza a verse más bajista. Pero si no, tu siguiente zona a romper son los 172, después de ahí 188, 188 son los 200, 200 a 211, uno por uno. Y interesantemente, esto es algo que les acabo de platicar también con Alex y con Farhan en inglés, es esto. Si volteamos a ver Coinbase, cada vez que ha tenido una desviación de esta línea, ¿qué es lo que hace el precio? ¡Pum! Para arriba. ¡Pum! Para arriba. Acá vino, lo tocó, lo rompió tantito a la baja, ¡pum! Para arriba. Entonces, ahora mismo estás una vez más en esta situación. Tu primera confirmación es que ya estás encima de los 165 y de esos promedios. Tu segunda confirmación, los 177, 178. Tercera, 188. Cuarta, 200, 211 y de ahí para arriba. Pero si caes abajo de los 165, eso lo haría ver bastante negativo para Coinbase. Así que ahí lo tienen, damas y caballeros. Vámonos con SO, que es Southern Company. Y ese se va a encargar Farhan de traernos este gran análisis de mercado. And I need to look it up myself too. SO.
Electric.
Oh, holy shit. It's a very uppity up chart. Since when?
All right, so on the monthly, we're at very extreme levels. We're approaching 99% on the HPDR. Usually, whenever we get above, I'm sorry.
No, I'm like, yeah, no shit. Look at this. It's been on a crazy uptrend since February of 2020.
Yeah, this goes up only. And this is where all of the buys went into from Bitcoin.
Basically.
Usually, whenever we get towards like the 95% area, we end up finding major tops there. Notice every single time before we found a major top around that 95% area. Right now, we're finding no top. We're just getting expansion up towards the 99%. Right now, our momentum is leading very extreme areas. We're at 97.92% on momentum. We can go up maybe 2% more before we're topped out. Volatility is at 97.9%. Both momentum and volatility are extremes right now. Our jewel is crossing up into the bullish control zone. The pink is about to cross up the yellow. This is technically a bullish setup. What would I would expect is if we keep continuing to expand from here, we consolidate a little bit, maybe touch this top of the 99% and reject it. I'd look for some sideways and down from there while these ranges step up. And then at that point, while the ranges step up and these momentum and volatility indicators reset, then the jewel will take over again and we can get another expansion towards the upside. But until then, while we're in this extreme levels in the HPDR, I would not expect us to go much higher than this. Probably not any higher at all than $95, to be honest, if I had to give a number on it. I would expect to hit the $95 area, maybe make like a
Because
shooting
that's at
star.
100, basically.
Yeah, that would be at the 99%.
Got it.
It's very unlikely it goes beyond the 99% and up to the 100%. The 100% sits at $98, $98.44. But I strongly think that we're going to doubt. I strongly doubt that we're going to hit that area, and I think we're going to find our top if we even hit it somewhere around 99%, and then maybe like 1 or 2 months going sideways while these ranges step up, because it's very unlikely that we've never had this in this thing's history that we broke above the 100%. We never even tapped the 100%. It's never happened. So is this time different? I don't think so. Right now, what our momentum and volatility indicators are telling us as well is that we're likely at or nearing a major top, and that we're probably going to be getting some sideways from here while the ranges move up and the oscillators reset. The jewel is the only thing that's still bullish right now. Quarterly candle is massive. Quarterly closed over the median, tested back down to the median, and found a spring from there and expanded massively from there. Right now, not only are we about to close above the 38.2, but we're about to close above the 50%, and we're very close to closing above the 61.8 as well. Our volatility indicator is pointed sharply towards the upside and expanding, and our momentum is breaking into the bullish control zone, and it's still very well healthily pointed up. So if we get a close like this, ideally above the 61.8%, we'd get a target of the 78.6. This is right now sitting at $97. This is the only way that we could possibly get near that 99%, is if this quarterly closes like this at the end of this month, then we could possibly tap this 78.6 at $97, but we very likely will not break over $100 based off of the monthly HPDR ranges. On the quarterly, we have room to go up but the quarterly is also a much higher time frame, and it takes much more time to play out. This would take maybe 3 or 4 candles to play out. That could be 9 months. It could be a year before these ranges play out towards the 95% or the 99%. In the meantime, from here, the monthly can consolidate for 1 or 2 months while the ranges move up, and that wouldn't even be one full quarterly closure. That's the beauty of the higher time frames. Right here on the weekly, we had a couple closures above the blue 38.2%. We consolidated and pulled back a little bit, corrected back into the blue 38.2%, and now we're about to get a close above it. It's at $90 flat, $90.00. So if we get a close above that, and our volatility is still pointed up and momentum is still pointed up, very likely we're going to the 61.8% or the 78.6. And right now that level is at $91.06 to possibly up to $92. Oh, my bad. I'm looking at the 38.2. The 50%, 61.8% is at $92.03, and the 78.6 is at $94.04. We would have a target of one of those two numbers based off of the close over the 38.2%. We wouldn't know which one. Our first target would be that 92.03, and then our second target would be 94.04. From there, we would very likely see some consolidation based on how the monthly HPDR bands look. Let's check the divergences. Nothing on the quarterly. Quarterly does have several confirmed tries of hidden bullish divergence off this last major low right here. And from there, we've just been going up only. This is February of 2024. We've confirmed this monthly divergence. It's still confirmed. It's still moving its way up towards the upside. But the reason why I think that it has very likely found a local top right now, or very close to now, is if you look at our volatility is literally at the extremes. It's at 98%. It cannot go any much higher than 98%. It's programmed to contract from there. Right now, our moving average is still at 81%. So we are waiting for this moving average to catch up with the BBWP oscillator right up here. And then from there, volatility is programmed to contract. So it's going to move down. And once that moves down, price is going to start working into a mean reversion from this move it did right here. And since this move is up, the mean reversion will be sideways and down. So we would expect that after this next monthly closure to have this moving average caught up with the BBWP. And then from there, volatility is going to start going down. And then we can expect, based off of the monthly HPDR, us to go sideways and down for a little bit while the ranges step up. And then from there, we'll be able to make our next move towards new highs. Weekly also has some confirmed hidden bullish divergence in October of 2024. And we also have somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders right here, but we've already hit the easy targets, which is the bearish critical zone. Right now, the bearish critical zone sits at $90.18. So we've already hit that. There's not much easy targets to get from here. It's not to say that we can't continue from here, but we definitely can as well. As long as our ranges do step up on the next open, then we can continue from there. Let's check the 5-day. 5-day has some confirmed hidden bullish divergence, and we're correcting off of the moving average. Right now, the 5-day looks pretty strong, but the volatility is not even at extreme levels yet. It's at 78% and is turning up from there. The only one that's at extreme volatility levels is the monthly. So in the short term, we could go a little bit higher, while the monthly stays at 100, and the moving average catches up on the monthly. Then the shorter term makes its top. Then the monthly volatility can start to contract from there. So and we're currently at the previous rejective tops as well. So if we close above this, we should be technically by the book should get an expansive move from there after we closed above our previous rejective highs. That would put us somewhere around $98.61, which is our 99% on the HPDR ranges. I didn't think that we'd hit that, but the 5-day based on the fib is telling me that that's a lot more likely. So I guess I was wrong there. Tar and Featherim, he was wrong. Did 2-day, not much. Daily. So daily is not giving us anything in terms of the RSI, but we're getting extremely low volatility. We're getting literally 2 periods of zero volatility, and we're getting expansion from there while the price is moving up. So that is telling us while the jewel is flipping around from a dark blue cell to a white neutral. So that is telling us that price can get a move up from here while the volatility is expanding, and that would coincide with our weekly HPDR ranges hitting the 95% or the 99%, while this is moving, volatility is expanding before we have our local top based off the monthly, the weekly, the 5-day, and the daily. And then from there, almost certainly we're going to get some consolidation. It's not just going to go straight to $200 from here. Possibly it goes up to $98. In the best case of scenarios, $100, but I wouldn't expect that much higher from there. And from there, instead of catching that move to the upside, I would more be interested in trying to catch shorts at the top on the way down, because that's going to be a lot more in your favor statistically versus trying to keep catching this move towards the upside. And that's what I've got for SO. Now I will get Ethereum. Let's switch to my HPDR chart. Ethereum. Let's start with Ethereum on the quarterly. So after we rejected the median in January of 2024 at somewhere around $4,000, we tested it again, we rejected it, made this hanging man candle, and then we got followed, which was a downside. On the move down, we tested towards this bottom meme line. We tested this 9 EMA and the 5 EMA. So far, we're finding some support. We're bouncing above the 9 EMA. We're still below the 5 EMA currently. Bitcoin is back above the 5 EMA. It's showing a lot more strength than Ethereum is, while Ethereum is still holding below it and holding below this bottom meme line, middle meme line as well. What we're watching for it on Ethereum for this closure in 7 days, 8 hours is for it to hopefully reclaim this meme line and this 5 EMA. And then from there, and to see where the median goes. If the median goes below price action, I'd be looking for the median as a base, and for price to bounce off of that and use it as a spring to move up towards this 38.2%. Please disregard this number right now, because this number is going to move down significantly on the next close. But right now, this number is sitting at $15,000. George just got his pants all wet. And our momentum is starting to flip up. Volatility is starting to flip up as well. We don't have enough data right here to give us any data, anything useful on the jewel. Let's go to the monthly. The monthly did bounce towards the bottom of the blue 38.2% zone and then opened below it. And we're getting a bounce off of this meme line right now. What we would ideally like to see is the monthly close above the 38.2%. Right now, that's so far ahead of price that it's very unlikely. that number is sitting at $3,468. So it's very unlikely that we close over that by this monthly close. We want to see where that number moves down to on the next close. If it moves down to where this mean line is, which is at around 2,897, or a little bit higher than that to 3,200, that'll make it possible for the next monthly close to close above it. And every single time we reclaim it, we end up getting a pretty significant rally, like we did right here. We went up 158% last time that we reclaimed the blue 38.2% zone. So if we do reclaim it and we do a similar, not even a similar move, let's just do 100% from there. That would take us to well over $7,000. That would get this, the ETH bulls a little something to get excited for after they've been starved for the past how many years? It's been 6 years at least since the last time ETH bulls have gotten some excitement. They've been starved. Those brothers are starved. Momentum is flipping down on the monthly right now, while volatility is flipping up. That would not be the best sign right now. As long as we keep rejecting this blue 38.2% zone, it's technically a bear sign unless this zone moves down. If it moves down and then we reclaim it that way, then it's not the worst sign. But if it stays where it is or it moves up and we keep rejecting it, at that point we're statistically likely to end up coming back down towards the 78.6, which is at 1,600. But we don't have that confirmation until the next monthly open. The 5-day right now is just below the median, front running it a little bit, that rejection of the median, and the 21 has just crossed below the 55. So you do have a fresh silver cross to the downside on the 5-day. Ethereum just doesn't really look good, to be honest. You have momentum.
Ethereum is a hard one for me to figure out for one simple reason, and that is if you just completely don't consider anything outside of like the actual token and the environment and everything that they've built on it and how it works, it should never make a new high, like a higher high. It should never. But then I think about that it belongs to JP Morgan, and that's what fucks with me, because it should be dog shit. But Jamie Dimon never fails.
Yep, and Big Fink Link says he wants to build the U.S. economy on the blockchain on Ethereum.
Linky Linky, but why would he do it on Ethereum? Why wouldn't they just build their own that's secure, that is not open to everyone to see everything? Because that's also a problem.
Maybe they could be.
We're retarded because we think that the fact that we can see transactions, transparency, and all of that stuff, but that's for us, for people. Anyone can figure out what your address is, and once they figure out that that's your wallet and that you have money and they connect it to your face, they can show up with a gun and take your fucking money out. And also then everyone is going to demand transparency from you, including the government, whereas the government doesn't have anything on public blockchains. So it's fucking retarded, in my view.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like you want to put like all of the confidential stuff that goes into buying a house, and you want to expose it on a blockchain for everyone to see. Like, that's retarded.
Yeah, fuck that.
That's what I'm saying. So they're not, I don't think they're going to use Ethereum as is. I think they might use an L2 with privacy and blah, 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 so that whoever can see, you know what I mean? But I don't think it's just Ethereum as a whole. Ethereum as a whole sucks.
Maybe Ethereum Classic is the real Ethereum, and we've all been playing with the wrong thing.
Don't fucking Ethereum Classic me right now. So I'm sorry. So what are you looking at now? 5-day?
Yes, the 5-day, we do have a fresh silver cross to the downside, and we have the median lining right up with this 21 EMA. So as of right now, we're still kind of rejecting the median. We're still holding above the 100 EMA. If we lose this 100, it's going to be pretty bearish, and I'm going to say we're very likely going to come back down to this 38.2, possibly this 50%, right around like 22.65 to maybe 23.60. And from there, I'll be expecting a lower high and then for the price to roll over. If we keep holding this 100, though, I would say I would watch to see where this median goes down to on the next monthly open. And then I would look for if it goes below price, I would look for price to springboard off the median and base off there for a move up to this 38.2% at 3,179. But if the median stays where it is or it moves up and we continue to reject it, That also increases the possibilities of us coming back down towards this bottom 38.2% zone. So we really just have to see where it opens up on the next 5-day open. The daily right now is looking quite strong on Ethereum, where we've been holding this 55 EMA as resistance ever since July, when price was well over $3,400. And right now we're well above it, and we're just about to close in about 6 hours and 57 minutes. If we get a close above this area and the 61.8%, it's going to be a change in structure from what we've had since all the way in summer. And our first target would be somewhere around this 100 EMA, which is currently 2790, towards this 88.3%, which is right now 2900. I wouldn't think it would go directly to $3,000. I think it would get a sharp rally, get into somewhere around this zone, around the 100 EMA on the daily, and then possibly retest that to wash out some of these late longs. Maybe wick a little bit below it down to the 78.6. And then from there, I would expect it to go up towards this top beam line right here, which is at 3,500, 3,562, give or take. Our momentum is pointed sharply up into the bullish control zone, and volatility is supporting it. And we're getting a fresh light blue cyan bicycle with the jewel pink above the yellow. So we're getting a lot of bullish signs on the lower time frames. The higher time frames are not yet ready to switch back in favor of those lower term bullish time frames. Check the RSI.
Also, specifically when Bitcoin dominance is going to shit a little bit, this should be good for Ethereum.
Really nothing. Monthly, we do have some confirmed bullish divergence, but it's already played out. The easy part is already played out. We hit the 21 EMA. So now if we continue to go down and we break this low here, this candle's low at $2,112, we're going to go down to the bearish control zone. First, we're going to go down to the middle zone and then the bearish control zone. If you break 2,112, we're going to go down to the middle zone, which is at $1,856.20. And then our next target below that is so low that it doesn't even tell you what it is. It says impossible to cross into the bear critical zone.
It's like this belongs to Jamie Dimon. You don't have to worry about that.
It's safe to know it would be low. Like, don't even worry about the bearish critical zone, sir. Jamie Dimon is very Fink will ensure that doesn't happen.
Good old Larry Finky. He's got your back.
Nothing on the 5-day, 3-day. 3-day just have confirmed bullish divergence within the bearish control zone. And we have an inverse head and shoulders that's getting ready to play out pretty soon. That would give us a target of the bullish control zone. And that number is currently sitting at $3,217, with the jewel starting to flip up and volatility starting to support it as well, where you get these bars going up. And that is looking like a very promising signal. We'd want to see it close above this 21 EMA on the 3-day, and this would invalidate the silver cross. And then we'd have a logical target of testing the 55, which right now is at right around $2,890. So we can get above that. That would open the door up to actually hitting this target for the bullish critical zone at 3,000, or control zone at $3,217. The 2-day. 2-day has multiple drives of confirmed bullish divergence. This one is also confirmed. 1, 2, 3, 4 drives confirmed. We've already hit the middle, so now our next target is the bullish control zone, and that one sits at $2,761. What would that be based on our EMAs? That'd be just above this 200 SMA. So it would be a reclaim of this 200. All of this will be a deviation. Let's see what happened last time we did that. Last time we reclaimed this 200 SMA, we ended up bouncing off it for a little bit, and then we got a sharp move towards the upside, a little bit of a minor correction, and then another very massive move towards the upside. Right now, it could be seen as us doing the same thing, where we have multiple drives of confirmed bullish divergence. As soon as we reclaim this, go sideways around it, on top of it for a little bit, maybe a couple of days, 1 or 2 weeks, and then from there blast off towards the upper end again, towards first these previous highs here at 3,500, 3,600, and then from there to retest this $4,000 all-time highs. But I would not look for that to happen until we get these confirmations on our weekly, 5-day, 3-day, and 2-day closes. After we see the next candle opens, then it'll give us more confidence that that previous plan is going to end up playing out. But until then, it's just something to watch.
Thank you so much, sir. I think Alex F. Nova 17. I don't know if that's a real thing or not, or if that's like a boy band.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I see FNO 17. It's BMV, so it's not in the United States.
So it's a shit coin.
Tell me why.
Tell me why you buying this bullshit.
You know what
Tell
happened
me
yesterday?
why. What?
I was telling Alex about floppy disks, and he had no idea what the fuck I was talking about.
Nah, I did not.
We're boomers. We're boomers.
I saw a video. I sent it to Belen where the NFL players, like all the rookies, look at VHS tapes, cassette tapes, and they have no idea what none of it is. They even look at a VHS tape and they go, "Is this a DVD?" I'm like, "You don't even know what a DVD is, dude? Fuck! That's what
Those
fuck?
dumb motherfuckers are older than me.
God damn! No, they're not. Those guys are. No, they're like 21, 22.
Oh,
It's fucking wild.
I see. I'm
Wild.
28. I'm a boomer at 28.
Somehow you are, but I think it's because you're not fully American, so you have some technology from the past that you had to deal with. Yeah, which is mostly what it is. Yeah, I mean, same shit. Mexico would take, if a movie came out in the US, it would take 2 years before it like opened in Mexico. Like it was so long. If there was new music in the US, it would take a year for it to get to Mexico. And now everything is just instant. No one accounts for that. But back in the day, there was some fucking delays. Either way. Acá tenemos eso rápido, Edgar, que lo habías pedido y lo habíamos analizado. No importa en qué temporalidad lo veas, cabrón, ¿ok? Te voy a poner este gráfico en el de 3 meses para que entiendas una cosa, papi. Esta madre empezó en octubre del 1998. La mitad de la gente que está viendo esto no estaba viva en ese entonces. Para que tengas eso como referencia de qué tanto le gusta estar al precio en ese canal, ¿ok? Ahora te voy a llevar a la mensual rápidamente. En la mensual puedes ver cómo le gusta la parte alta del canal, la parte media y también la parte baja y la respeta. Lo que yo diría, porque estamos viendo esto, ha estado en una tendencia alcista desde el principio hasta acá. Ahora, desde el 98, haber subido de $20 a 90, no se me hace un movimiento tan rápido. Y también cuando te pones un poco más de cerca y empiezas a ver cuándo fue esto. Esto fue marzo del 2020. Hasta donde estás ahorita, estás hablando de un 115% en el movimiento más extremo que ha hecho esto. Es una compañía eléctrica de energía, perdón. Ahora, el problema que tienes es que en todas las temporalidades más o menos cortas, y estoy hablando de un mes a una semana a días, esto está sobrecomprado de a madre, pero sobrecomprado. Puede que tengas un movimiento hasta esta zona de los $100, pero eso ya sería jalártela enfrente de todo el planeta, güey. Aquí, o sea, esto ya, por lo que diría, si no has entrado en esto, tal vez no valga la pena entrar ahora. Si estás en esto completamente y te compraste acá en los 66 o no sé, tal vez te sacaste la lotería y compraste en 42, sería interesante un buen momento como para salirte, porque el precio literalmente por un rato, y estamos hablando de un año, tiene que estar por acá. Rangueando, porque tienen que moverse. De nuevo, todos los indicadores de compra están sobrecomprados, todo está a tope, la volatilidad está expandida a 98%, donde solo puede tocar 100%, no hay más a dónde ir. Entonces, y sobre todo cuando tienes altos nuevos, es imposible decirte a dónde iría el precio, pero obviamente el número del 100 en cualquier activo es un número psicológico bastante fuerte y duro para todos. Entonces, ahí lo tienes. Vámonos con Ether rápidamente, que también se lo aventó Farhan para todos ustedes y para todos nosotros, para nuestro placer. Ethereum podemos ver varias cosas. Uno, no hay nuevos altos. Tuviste los altos del 2021 y luego tuviste esto. Mínimo Bitcoin sí hizo altos nuevos. ¿Esto será algo que nos preocupe a todos? No sé todavía. Tenemos que empezar a ver, porque todos los shitcoins, no importa lo que sea, están yéndose a cero en contra de Bitcoin o en contra de cualquier cosa. Y la pregunta es, ¿por qué Ethereum no? Y lo primero que me da conflicto instantáneamente es porque Jamie Dimon y JP Morgan invirtieron en esta madre en el 2017 como enfermos y apenas la gente se empezó a dar cuenta no hace tanto tiempo. Eso es una cosa. Cuando de verdad usas Ethereum es una mierda comparado con Solana, por ejemplo, y toda la interfaz y la rapidez de la cadena y el costo es una gatada comparado con Solana. Entonces, ¿por qué mierdas usarías Ethereum en vez de Solana? Mucha gente va a decir, es que los apagones de Solana, güey, esos pasan nada. Nada, 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 comparado con algo que puedes utilizar todo el tiempo. Es una locura. Ahora, vamos a ver qué exactamente estamos acá. Acabamos de recuperar el 21, que es bastante bueno. Acá cuando recuperamos el 21 y el 21 se fue, el 9 se fue encima del 21, tuviste un gran zampompazo y ese zampompazo vino en la forma de 119%. Todavía no recuperas el 9, estás aquí abajo y vas a ranguear probablemente en esta zona por un rato. Pero cuando volteamos a ver la semanal, nos damos cuenta de que crítico es esto. El promedio de los 200, el S&P 200 acá, que pudo literalmente testear y aparte pompear, solamente lo ha desviado una vez antes, ve esto. ¿Y qué tipo de pompazos te da cuando ganas de nuevo el 200 desde abajo? 130%. Acá se fue hasta acá. 99%. Y acá, bueno, se fue al run de la historia en casi 170%. Esto es cuando estás encima del 200 y empiezas a recuperar el 9 y además el 21. Una vez que eso pasa, esto va como espuma para arriba. Pero para poder recuperar el 9 estás justamente encima. No quieres perder los 2,640. Es un nivel bastante importante para esto. Si pierdes los 1,240, vas a ir a buscar los 2,500. Si vas a buscar los 2,500, probablemente te vayas a dar otra vuelta por acá, los 2,361, y ahí tienes que ver que no rompas los 2,119 a la baja. Es crítico en esa situación. Ahora, acá estás por encima del 9 y el 21 y lo estás retomando por primera vez desde algo así, porque es lo que parece este movimiento. Más o menos. Y este movimiento resultó en un zampompazo de 30%. Si fueras a hacer exactamente lo mismo a este punto, a 30%, justamente se alinea con los 3,150, lo que nos pone con el promedio de los 200, el S&P 200 por acá. Entonces, hay una gran probabilidad de que el precio de Ethereum, siempre y cuando no se caiga en los niveles que te dije, vaya a buscar los 3,165. De ahí va a crear altos históricos. No tengo ni puta idea, pero mínimo por ahí tiene cara de que esto podría irse a la alza. Tu siguiente sería en 3,340, siguiente 3,580, de ahí 3,900 y de ahí te imaginarás, ¿no? Entonces, paso a paso, poco a poco, simplemente no quieres perder estos niveles tan importantes como el 2,485 y mucho menos el 2,300. Para poder ser alcista. Quieres seguir empujando arriba de la media del 9 en la semanal, que es muy importante, y el precio cada que la puede retomar tiene excelentes pompazos. Lo hemos visto una y otra vez, así que es, en mi opinión personal, el 2,641 es algo que no quieres perder, quieres seguir empujando al alza y tu siguiente objetivo a romper 2,730 y 2,718. Ahí lo tienes, Ethereum. Nova, whatever. You ready?
Yeah, let me get it on.
Let me see. How the fuck you find that? F Nova 1. Okay.
What is that? Uh-oh.
It's F Nova 17, no? Or do you have one?
No, this is Nova 7, or it says Nova dash 17.
Yeah, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. So, I mean, not much we're working with this chart. Don't even really know what it is. Not a lot of liquidity, too much. It's more evident on the lower time frames. But what I'm
Hang
seeing,
on. What if I told you this is real estate related?
yeah, I would believe it because, yeah, I mean, I would believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, ideally, what I'm seeing here with the minimal amount of data I have is, we're seeing that this monthly cross basically hold, and it's basically just been driving this whole downtrend through and through on this chart. After making this higher, did it even make the higher high? No, it didn't. So, after making this high, which never broke this last high here, we've just been steadily, and this last high never broke this wick high. We've steadily just been kind of like in a monthly downtrend before the breakdown. This last lower high was the place before we deviated here, and then just multiple months of downside. I'm curious to see before I break this chart down how the quarterly is looking. And it's just heavily beaten down. About to close now under the quarterly 21 here. We see sitting at $24.39. Also for the first time losing this quarterly EMA 9 was your tell sign to, this is kind of bad. Because, we just see from the time, the data we have on this, this quarterly 9 has been a big point on this chart. When this came down, it even held here, and then here, and then this was just a whole on deviation. I would have looked at this zone at $27. It's a short zone, but you can see here price only went to $26.49 before it just heavily broke down. And so now we see it's losing the 21, not a good sign. Overall, and it just gives more, I guess, it just solidifies just how bad the monthly is, especially with this cross here. Losing that 34 was not the best, and now we're seeing how this 9's pressing down pretty heavily, while BBWP is expanding, and it can keep going. It can go, as we see here, it can easily still go to the 80s, 90s, which just means that it would just exacerbate this move down more. On the lower time frames, even like if we go to a weekly here, we see through and through the weekly 9 has just been a big shorting opportunity. From the point that we basically lost the 9, formed this massive shooting star, we essentially just dumped. It's been down only. I don't know. I know they do real estate, some investment trusts. Unsure though, like what country, what sector, what kind of real estate they're doing. But
I'll tell you this one. Look at the top. Look at the top candle. No, like the top. And look at the date. And that is, if I'm not mistaken, March of 2022, right?
Yeah.
That's literally when they started hiking rates. The Federal Reserve came out and said, we're hiking rates. Now, what I would be expecting is once we get to the bottom of the rates, this should find a bottom. And not right now. We still have to get to like whatever the bottom of the rate is going to be. That's when this will find a bottom and bounce, in my opinion. Because it's just completely real estate related. And it can't be that far away. Yeah.
No, that makes sense because we can see where it bottomed right around there when, they just cut interest rates, super heavily. Money was free, printing money. It's when it went parabolic. If that time is right, raising rates, consolidation to now breakdown. So yeah, I mean that's an interesting point. Something just if you're playing that more long term to keep mindful of. But overall, yeah, this chart is just basically down only. It can't even reclaim. Anytime we've gone to the weekly 9, it's just been a short opportunity. And so when seeing something like that, if we can start reclaiming the weekly 9, that'll be the first sign of, okay, that's good. It doesn't mean it's bottomed yet, because then we have the 21. Generally, we can reclaim the 21. That gives bulls a little bit more control. And then once they get above that 34, it gives us a free move to the 100. But overall, as it stands, yeah, this chart's pretty battered down. I guess if you're trying to view it on the daily, getting back above the daily EMA 34 at $24.86 right now would probably get us a move to that 100. The issue with the 100 is it's still massive resistance, and there's not many times we've hit it. And that's what you'll generally see with charts like this. Just kind of go down only is it makes some major moving averages. Very far from price. So even if we rally all the way up to $27, we have the daily SMA 200. The the weekly EMA 100 right there, and others, and essentially the point is, it's really like a bull's best case here is some consolidation around here, in my opinion. If we could then just start consolidating instead of coming down, just doing this for many, many, many weeks, months, what that'll do is it'll start bringing these moving averages more down until it's actually they're all just clustered, and then at that point it'll be a lot easier for a move up to reclaim and then break out. That's like the hopium I could see. Well, even like BBWP just starts resetting and coming down, maybe hits extremes in the chop for the move. But as it stands, yeah, Bears have full control. This isn't bullish at all. The quarterly is not looking good. Ideally, maybe a bounce, get back above the 21. Yes, we don't have a lot of data with it, but it's still never good losing the 21, especially on a quarterly. It has populated, so I mean that's it, I guess. We are holding this $23.32, but I really wouldn't put much weight on that zone, especially since we've just full on just slapped back to the lows on the quarterly. But I guess that is the point. We are holding the support zone now. But something just to be mindful of. Silver Cross is holding the 9 is a big rejection zone. You really see the low liquidity in the daily, and it's just this isn't really catching a bid. The daily 34 is a big zone. It's been a huge rejection zone. That's why I say if we maybe come back down, bounce again at $23.30, reclaim the 34, start consolidating, and then it reclaims the EMA 100. That'll look better and probably give us a move back to this $27 zone. From there, we'll see what the closures happen if we actually can reclaim that monthly 9 and get back above, because that's still a heavy resistance, and that's sitting right at that $26.50, $27 zone. Along with the 34 and the 21, all clustering there, telling me that this zone on all time frames has a lot of resistance right there. So it is something to be mindful of, and just if you're bullish, just hope consolidation happens. Essentially, a multi-month consolidation that'll give bulls more momentum, more legs. It'll reset oscillators. And actually move those moving averages more down, so we can actually start reclaiming things and shifting. But just go to the weekly, view the EMA 9, and as long as we're under there and rejecting it, there's absolutely no reason to bid it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's also very small, even though the market cap is at $11 billion. God knows how. Their volume, I mean, wow. Their volume is $11,000 right now. They've traded $11,000 today.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, shitcoins get more volume than that. So,
dude, even Iggy Azalea with her ass and she went and did all this thing in Singapore. It's so fucking hilarious, by the way. She's probably moving way more money than that. Probably way more. I'm not gonna look it up right now, but either way, hold on here. We're basically done. I'll do a shameless plug. I'll do this, and we'll chat in a second. So you boys take 5.
Cool.
Thank you. Ok. Tenemos aquí esta tabla de Actinver. Esto es claramente un rate de bienes raíces. No sé si se tenga que ver algo con Estados Unidos o no. Dice que la capitalización de mercado de esta empresa es de $11 billones, 11 mil millones de dólares, que no entiendo cómo, porque eso querría decir que vale más que Rivian, pero tiene un volumen de trading de $11,043 al día. Hoy, el promedio son $36,000, pero hoy está en 11,000. ¿Por qué? Puedes ver lo bajo que está, ¿no? Que por el promedio bajando. Simplemente por bienes raíces. No hay cómo buscarle más acá. Porque ¿qué es lo que le ha pasado a bienes raíces, no? Lo primero que les quiero enseñar es justamente eso, temporalidad. Esto pasó literalmente, y déjenme pongo... No, lo voy a hacer con esto. Esto fue cuando empezaron a subir los tipos. Entonces, muy probablemente vayamos a encontrar un fondo cuando los dejen de bajar. Dejen de bajar. O quede una reunión antes de que los dejen de bajar. Esto es completamente especulación, ¿ok? Y la razón por qué es, el precio necesita empezar a consolidar para poder bajar todos los promedios. Y ahorita lo van a ver. Es una tabla bastante floja, honestamente, y no tan buena. Y además también, si te sacaste la lotería, invertiste desde abajo, quiero que sepan esto, y le pegaste y vendiste hasta arriba, 94%, si es que te cagaste. Si lo hiciste acá, 86%. No hay tanta volatilidad, obviamente siendo bienes raíces, te presenta cierto tipo de comodidad el saber que no se va a ir todo al nepe, pero en este momento el 9 está por abajo del 21, ves la señal de debilidad, todos estos son velas mensuales, está cotizando en 23.84, el tope ha sido $34 y estás viendo cómo está cayendo, y ahora veniste a retestar el 55, te rechazó en los 24.90 y bajaste hasta acá. Eso no es una buena señal en temporalidad mensual. Ahora, en la semanal puedes ver si eres amigo de las velas, si te gustan el Candlestick Theory. Acá tienes una vela de tope que fue absolutamente, perfectamente respetada junto con esta, donde tuviste este cierre, te dio la confirmación. Esta también tenía confirmación, esta te dio más confirmación y seguiste tu movimiento para abajo. Acá tienes otra vela de tope, esta verde, tuviste confirmación y continúas para abajo y esto está creando también otra vela de tope con que baje tantito más. Entonces, puedes ver exactamente dónde estás parado con esto, sobre todo cuando prendemos nuestros promedios, podemos darnos cuenta que tuvimos un cruce plateado a la baja todavía acá atrás, en la semanal, en agosto del 2023. Lo ha respetado desde entonces, ha sido rechazado de la 9 cada vez que vienes a buscarlo y simplemente no has podido treparte de nada. El hecho de que todos estos estén por acá quiere decir que probablemente a cierto punto el precio vaya a venir a retestear estos promedios. Pero como pueden ver, vean lo abajo que está de todo. Y en una diaria se ve pésimo esto porque es muy poco volumen lo que mueve, por eso se ve así la gráfica. Lo que tienen que saber es esto. Esto tiene que empezar a encontrar un suelo, no total, pero empezar a formar sin caer, porque eso va a ayudar a que todos estos promedios puedan bajar y empezar a retomar niveles importantes. Por ahora no hay razón alguna que comprar, ni aunque hayas visto esa vela volverse verde. Ahora esa es una vela de tope, ahí está. Entonces, si no sube más, ahí tienes otra vela de tope que ya fue rechazado por el promedio de los 9 junto con esta. Y lo que quieres es simplemente retomar ese nivel. El primero que quieres retomar en la diaria son los 24.17. 24.17 y tener dos cierres ahí, empezará a bajar estos promedios, pero también si no lo logras y empiezas a consolidar por acá, no está mal. Estos promedios van a bajar y a cierto punto va a volver a tomarlos. Pero nuevo, esta es una inversión de bienes raíces. No creo que estemos tan lejos del fondo de bienes raíces y no por situación, pero sino por política. ¿Ok? Cuando digo política es porque en Estados Unidos están cambiando las reglas en todo lo que es invertir en bienes raíces. En California están implementando reglas para poder ayudar a que las casas nunca bajen de precio y que sigan en alta demanda, ayudando a la gente que pueda construir unidades adicionales dentro de su casa y también pudiendo convertir los edificios comerciales en habitacional, pero como cualquier pendejo sabe, si ha sido un edificio de oficinas, no hay suficientes baños por oficina, pero lo que sí están haciendo es como hostales, estilo, que puedas ir al baño común, etcétera, en lo que vives ahí, y el gobierno va a pagar renta o también la persona puede pagar renta de acuerdo a lo que se dé. Entonces, ahí lo tienen, damas y caballeros. Este fue el casino del tío Salo con todos ustedes. Lo único que les quiero compartir en este momento es nuestro amado Discord para todos ustedes que se quieran unir. Ya somos más de 3,000 vagabundos, ¿no? Que Gavin Newsom todavía no paga por, pero aquí lo tienen y déjenme les pongo el banner. Únete al Discord, padre. Únete al Discord. ¿Cómo de que no? Ahí tienen el enlace. Es súper fácil de usar. Aceptas la invitación con ese enlace y acá puedes ver el análisis de Alex, el análisis de Farhan. Puedes meterte al chat general. Criptolingo para todos ustedes que se pregunten, güey, ¿qué significa esto? Aquí lo tenemos. Tenemos acá, ven a compartir todas tus ganancias con la comunidad, ven a pedir tablas. Tenemos testimoniales. Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes que han dejado un testimonial. Se aprecia muchísimo. ¿Estoy compartiendo mi pantalla o no? No, por supuesto que no. Obviamente no. Ahí está. Discúlpenme. Soy un puto genio. Entonces les decía, acá a la izquierda pueden ver el nombre, aceptas la invitación, te vas a meter acá. A la derecha tienes lo que enseñe, ¿no? Si es el Alejandro Análisis, ahí lo tienes. El de Farhan, ahí lo tienes. General, ahí lo tienes. a la gente que nos ha dejado sus testimonios, muchísimas gracias, aquí estamos. También tenemos noticias y todo lo demás. Entonces, solamente únanse con ese enlace y sin ningún problema, ahí los vamos a ver, como de que no. Vale, y con esto nos despedimos todos. Muchísimas gracias por su atención. Pórtense bien, tomen Water People como Farhan, como Alex, exactamente. Ahí tienen wearewaterpeople.com, es el sitio web y tenemos descuento en la página web y les llega a todas sus casitas, así que no se lo pierdan. Debería poner un banner de Water People. Bueno, lo hacemos a la próxima. Gracias a todos, pórtense bien y nos vemos.